Hello everyone, this is your daily dose of Elden Ring PvP. My name is Bustrucket, joined here by Pongo. Go ahead and say hi.
Was popping.
And we're going to go ahead and get started with this tourney, hosted by the Duelist Event Network.
Absolutely. And the format for this tournament, it is I think $85 tournament it was. First place gets 50, second place is 25, third place is 10. There's 16 player single elimination on Seamless, and we have a custom map this time around. The first round and quarterfinals, we first to two wins. The semifinals is first to three, and the finals is first to four.
We're going to be starting off today with Mod and Tocco, or Tocco, for the first round, and Braun the Goat is getting a bye over to the second round, so he'll be moving on. And from there, we also have Scampy, Ryepchan, Ellie DKS, Aika, Ruth, Hiidohunter, Space Ranger, Angres, Young Yas, Mudkip PL, witnake, and FrigidARC.
Awesome. And
And so there you can see the bracket there. And so we're gonna be getting started here in the world in just a minute. But hope everyone is doing well. Welcome in, welcome in. I see Mudkip in the chat, Shiroi, Enda, Winnetka, Space Ranger, Mod.
plenty of people already filtering in, 54 viewers. What's poppin', boys?
All right, so what are we expecting to see from these first rounds? As far as Taka's concerned, I know that he has been competing in DS3 for quite a while. He's done 4 different tourneys in Dark Souls 3 and only one in Elden Ring, but it should be exciting to see what he brings. He's an HTS main, as it so appears.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite excited myself because I don't know a whole lot about these players. I've tuned in for a few of these Den streams before, and it is very entertaining to watch. But just on like a play style level, I'm not quite sure. So I'm quite excited to see just how these people perform today.
Yeah, it will be pretty interesting. And then we also have Maudcraeb for the first round going up against him. Also has competed in Dark Souls 3 tournaments and in some Elden Ring tournaments, and he just recently competed in one of the tournaments hosted by End of the Lion, or End of the Loin, as he's otherwise known as.
Absolutely, end of the line. Big shoes to fill, but I think we'll do a pretty good job.
Well, I mean, big shoes would imply that he has big feet, and I don't know if that's necessarily the case here, but
From
he does
personal
have quite
experience,
a
I can
fantastic
confirm
beard.
he does have some massive feet.
He has big feet. Interesting, interesting. We have some feet enjoyers in chat.
I would know because I live in his walls. Enda's a nerd. B-Beard, how could you say this? Some absolute slander going on in chat right now.
I mean, to be deserved, to be honest. He did just host one of the biggest uh,
The Swiss
unrestricted
League?
tournaments. Yeah, yeah. The Swiss League. It was definitely one of the leagues of all time, to be sure.
Absolutely. I tuned in when they started talking about frog legs, so clearly very, very productive things going on over there. I love to see it.
I
What's
recall
your
I
opinion on frog legs?
frog legs. Well, I believe that they taste like chicken, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Uh, Frog League, yes, absolutely.
Frog legs.
I've never personally tried frog legs before. I think where do you even get those? I like I can't say I've seen frog legs on the average restaurant menu before. Certainly not at a Wendy's.
If any place, I'd say probably Florida.
Probably Florida. Louisiana sounds like probably where it would be. Frog World Championship. Absolutely. Everyone runs an arcane build with Albinoric mask.
I mean, to be honest, too, if you're not jumping, then like, are you even playing Elden Ring?
Exactly. Leapfrog tournament. That's what we'll do.
True.
You think what was it? The Hasbro Leapfrog, that little thing. You remember those?
I will say absolutely, even though I have no idea what you're talking about. But yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Little tablet with kids games. Yeah, Leapfrog and stuff on there. Anyways, I'm old. But
So we got L2, we have the jump button, and we have frog heads. I think that this will be a fun-filled tournament for all to enjoy.
I agree. I agree. Taco says I'm nervous and want to play my B tier setups. Well, I mean, feel free.
Yeah, there is nothing saying in the rulebook that you cannot be a off-meta Giga Chad in these meta tournaments. And sure, it'll be painful. Sure, you'll, get ripped in half, but it'll be fine in the end of the day, right?
Show them that a hammer can still win. You
Hammers
know,
can
Taco, I
win. You
believe
heard
in
it
you.
here,
B
folks.
tier god.
You use Rob SSS God tier? Yeah.
Absolutely. It hasn't been nerfed yet, trust.
Rob
Rob
plus
buff one.
11.
Yeah, Russ, what do you think of the backgrounds we've got here? I am a huge fan. The background. I think this is the which arena is this? The Ghost Horse Lady,
The Ghost Horse Lady. Yeah, that's the one.
one
I
of the
think that
bosses of all time.
yeah, they got some good little images for the backdrops here for us today, and we'll be seeing a couple of those as we go through.
Oh,
Looks
here
like
we
we have
go.
contestants in the ring, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Looks like they're showing off their talisman loadouts already before the bolt even fires off. And I believe here we have Mod on the left, and we have Tocco on the right, and you can see that they're color coordinated. So we got
The
blue
time is
for Mod.
beginning, and the round has begun as they immediately start by drinking their physics. And Maud is already going in with the power stance spears, gets a couple hits in, already bringing Taco down to nearly half health. As Taco's trying to get hits in with, I believe that is a Godskin Stitcher. Uh, he has landed, I believe, one jumping attack so far, as Mod buffs the spears with a... I think those are partisans. Oh, Mod did get a frost proc with that HTS, but the damage that Mod is putting out is just absolutely massive against Taco, as he lands another jumping attack, already proccing the tears, but the health is almost equal. I haven't seen if he popped Mod's tier yet. He does have quite the health advantage, and it seems that Taco is poisoned. He's got only a sliver of health left, and it seems that Mod's going to be able to keep that pressure up, and he is down already.
Tocco takes the first round.
I think that was Mod taking the first round, or was it? Was it? No, wait. Which health bar is which? I think Taco is red and Mod is blue. Yeah,
Yes, did I read that backwards?
I think so.
My bad.
L gamer,
GG wasn't me.
colorblind. That's the excuse.
So it's an interesting matchup here. Generally speaking, the HGS has a bit of a hard time in this kind of a matchup, but with the Power Stance Spears having a poise restriction, it actually gives it kind of a chance here. So let's go ahead and head on to the second round.
You do gotta respect it using something like HTS against power stance spears, you know, something that used to be massive in the meta, but has since somewhat fallen from grace, but still people just love the weapon so much that they continue to use it even after its nerfs. And it is great to still see it being used in these tournaments as the next round is kicking off as the arrow drops from the sky, both players drinking their physic, already going in, starting with Shelling Mist on the HTS. On the side of Taco, Mod having buffed with Lightning Grease, Mod already landing his first jumping attack, Taco trying to get a bit of pressure in. It is really hard to pressure those power stance spears with an HTS, but he is still trying. As you see a bit of a lag possibly on the part of Mod, kind of doing a little bit of a Miyazaki shuffle there. He lands another jumping attack on Taco. They do seem to have some pretty decent net, all things considered, as Taco is just taking so much damage and finally lands his first hit against Maud. Will he be able to come back from this massive health discrepancy? He's already down to 700 HP. Maud's still over 2,000. He's still trying to get in some jumping attacks there, but none of them are landing, as it just shows the sheer power of those power stance spears. He does go for a couple R1s and a jumping attack, and that is a Storm Blade. Maud tries a crouching attack, a jumping attack, more L1s, more jumping attacks. It's really all they can do is the exchange, and Tocco's already down to one hit, and the next round is over already with Maud winning with well over 3/4 of his health still remaining. Just the absolute power of those partisans.
And Mod moves on to the next round. Taco was having a bit of a hard time with his free aims. With the HTS, you have to free aim a lot of those jump attacks to try and get them to land on the target, and it was just not happening. But good effort on both sides. Definitely a difficult matchup either way. But well played by Mod, and we will be continuing on to the next round.
Absolutely. That was a complete display of just the power of power stance spears compared to something that's now considered pretty off meta, such as HTS, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a difficult matchup to say the least. But again, that poise restriction really does help quite a bit. It wasn't enough in the end of it. The amount of damage that you're trying to outtrade against power stance spears with an HTS, it's just so difficult to try and get around that.
Absolutely. But it is, as I said before, it is good to see people still using HTS, an interesting weapon with a pretty decent moveset, and I feel like if anything, the nerfs have encouraged people to use a bit more than just that jumping R1. And it's good to see. Maybe it'll make a return sometime.
So next up, we're going to be having Scampy and Wayup Chan. They're going to be entering the world here in just a minute.
Perfect, perfect. And I mean, in the meantime, are there any other comments on that previous match, or anyone in chat want to ask some questions, anything like that?
Well, to be honest, I feel like we might see Mod moving up pretty high in the ranks there. You know, using the power stance spears is definitely one of the more, meta setups. It's a very difficult one to work around, even with the poise restriction. So he may be going along for quite a ways up that ladder.
Absolutely, yeah. He clearly does have a very good understanding of the power stance spears, the range, the spacing. You know, something I didn't expect to see a whole lot of there was the jumping attacks, but he was landing a lot of those multi-hit jumping attacks, and they don't do a whole lot of damage. You know, it stacks up really quickly with a weapon like that, especially with just the sheer amount of pressure you can stack on.
So next up we have Scampy. Scampy's actually got his first tournament today. This will be his first one, and so we'll be seeing a debut by him and what he can provide to the tournament scene. Should be an interesting fight.
Absolutely, and I believe I'm just hyped as you are to see how this one goes.
For Wyepchen, I actually don't know too much about them. I don't think that I've actually seen them in a tournament before, but I might be mistaken.
Yeah. I'm very curious overall as to what weapons people use. You know, since the last tournament, we've had, you know, a new patch, some more weapons climbing the viability ladder, some going a little further down, and just I'm quite excited to see what people, what the chefs have cooked for this tournament today.
Spilled Beans is giving his recommendation, saying Scampy is the strongest player in his chair. I don't think anybody can argue that. I don't think anyone else is in that chair. But, I could be wrong. There could be multiple people in that chair. Who knows?
It depends on the size of the chair, you know.
Could be a really big chair.
Could be a huge chair. Man's got a throne in there.
Dude, wouldn't that be nice?
Dude, imagine gaming on a throne though. That would be amazing. Big leather throne.
Big Throne Gaming. Anyway. Um, so With Scampy coming in here, it will be interesting to see what he ends up bringing out. One of the more common kind of setups that we're seeing on the ladder coming out is the power stance straight swords. I think in the last tournament, what, half of the ladder or half of the competition was using power stance straight swords. It's really interesting to see such a power stance heavy setup coming out into the meta where almost everything is power stance.
Yeah, really. It is interesting that in this game, where power stancing made a comeback, from all the way back in Dark Souls 2, and it's just so good overall. Like a large majority of the best setups are power stance setups. You got power stance straight swords, power stance spears, power stance great spears, etc., etc. And it's really interesting to wonder what FromSoft is going to do with that. Because I mean, the some of the patch notes clearly have been, at least to a degree, influenced by the community, but Power Stance has just remained king through it all.
It looks like Scampy has scared away his competition without even being shown his first display yet. And we're going to be skipping his round for now and coming back to it later. For now, we'll be bringing in Eli and Ica to see what they're going to bring to the table. Passwords are out, and they will be being brought into the world momentarily.
Clearly, the sheer presence was just too much for his opponent.
Well, that is yet to be determined. We'll find out whether or not they show up at the end of the day here, but hopefully they do make it. For Ica, though, he is the two-stock reigning champion, from what I understand.
Really, he's a two-stock gamer.
Two-stock gamer, confirmed.
Two-stock gaming.
But
Absolutely, that. Two-stock.
he's been around for a while. He's been around since Bloodborne, so he's definitely a veteran in the scene. Ica, she, her, thank you.
Hmm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Two stock. That is a name I have not heard since, well, like, I gotta say, like 1.04. It kind of came and went. It got quite popular early on with the combination of Storm Stomp, but the thing is, Storm Stomp, I believe, is currently banned on ladders, so it makes me wonder if Ica is going to use the two stock, what Ash of War she's going to use on that.
Yeah, with a lot of these, more meta setups, even like Power Stance Straight Swords again, for example, it's not something that you're seeing with a lot of Ash of War running around on it because a lot of them are banned. The ones that you would use anyway, the ones that kind of cover the ground that the weapon doesn't naturally cover itself. And mind you, Power Stance Straight Swords do a lot. They don't need
They
a whole
do a
lot of help.
lot.
But I'll tell you what, an extra little Storm Stomper Endura on that, and they become even more terrifying. So it is a good thing that those things are banned, at least in
Oh,
my opinion.
absolutely.
But we also have Eli coming in as well. They've played in a lot of tournaments, and also using a number of different builds. But I think that there may be one in particular that we end up seeing from them coming in today.
Is there a specific build you're predicting here?
Well, I'd be hard pressed to say if we don't see at least one straight sword, but it could be anyone's game here. They could be pulling out a number of anything. If they're coming here from Dark Souls 3 or before, I'd even be uh, a little surprised to see a crossbow.
Expo gaming. That would be interesting to see, absolutely. Uh I don't do we have a sleep bolt ban on pulley crossbow or no?
I
I
should
don't
really
think we
know that.
do.
I don't think that there is one.
No, I don't think so. That would be interesting to see because especially on the latency that EU can give, it's like it really is NAT dependent when it comes to those status effects. And I know those sleep bolts at least used to be cross-region banned, but I think they did get unbanned at some point with the overall status nerfs that happened some patches ago. But yeah, it is. It's exciting to see.
Yeah, no sleep ban. No sleep ban because we're on a non-cross region, which is a nice thing to have a change of.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Same region is always nice to see matches on. Oh, and I do believe we are going to be kicking this one off, as I only see one player in the arena.
Camouflage? Mimic Veil?
Insane. Has one of the contestants become so powerful?
Ah,
Oh, nope, they're just at the Grace.
GG. They have forgotten the Rune Arc. They will be back momentarily.
Incredible.
Well, I can relate to that. For the last tournament that was just going on, I had forgotten my Rune Arc for about every single round. Feels bad, man.
He for gore.
No Johns, no Johns.
And we're back to the intermission screen here, getting a nice view of the funny horse lady arena. Now, I think it'd be if this circle was a little smaller, this would be a sick PvP arena.
With the added bonus of extra lightning damage on top of it too.
Absolutely. You know, I believe in lightning supremacy
Lightning
myself.
supremacy.
If you ain't running
Um,
lightning, what are you even doing? What are you doing?
Now, I do have to point out here, we have Checkmark Man joining the chat room today. The Dropout Dragon, Checkmark Man. Wow! There's a
Incredible. And we
whole
are
new
seeing
checkmark in here.
all sorts of semicolon threes in the chat. Or is that full colon? Who knows? I don't know buttons. Who does? A little bit of X3 here and there even.
Well, besides the checkmark itself, I will have to say one thing. Something that Dodd and the Loin do very well is commentary. They're very good at commentating, and it would be it would be something to be put on anywhere of the same level of commentary as they're able to display. But we're going to be getting back over to the match here. And again, we have Eli on the left and we have Ika on the right. And we're going to be getting the match underway.
And it does, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I do see a coded on the left there as the arrow drops from the sky. Ica throwing a lightning bolt right off the bat that does land and drinking his physic. Eli isn't able to punish that as Ica is starting this with, a small health advantage, but a health advantage nonetheless. He's using Shamshir to get some damage in as Eli comes in with the codeds. The damage on that Shamshir, that is impressive. But the damage is very quickly evened out by the power of those codeds. That is some massive damage coming out of the Shamshir as the tier procs on the side of Ica. He's down to 600 health. Eli down to 400 now. The health remaining pretty much equal. You love to see these equal fights, and it ends in the favor of Ica coming out over the coded swords with a Shamshir. Well done.
Incredible. Absolutely amazing gameplay. Now, one thing to note here is that that match ended due to attempted L1 out of hit stun. And they were punished for it. So it just goes to show that every now and then, PSSS does not go burr. I suppose that's debatable. It still went burr, but it just got outburred.
It went burr, but not bird enough.
Both contestants are back in the ring, and we're going to be getting the second round underway.
And the countdown begins. Right off the bat, Aika does not start the same way she did before, but she does this time throw a Sacred Blade that does not hit Eli. This time the health even right off the bat, not starting with any kind of health advantage, but already winning some trades against Codeds. You don't see that very often. Clearly showing the power of a Shamshir with those new 1.09 buffs that I mentioned earlier. It's really great to see those new buffs being taken advantage of, but just in 2 easy L1s, Ica has taken over 1,000 damage now. And Eli is looking to get some more in, just trying to get some trades, but it seems that Ica's still able to keep those healths even, only a couple points off. They are almost exactly even health. That is impressive to see as Ica takes another hit, now below 1,000, but the tier has procced, and Eli is now below 1,000 as well. Ica now having a little bit of a health advantage, but somehow, or sometimes a little bit of a health advantage is all you need as she tries to keep some pressure on with some running attacks and some R1s afterwards, and does land some with the backswing, but the health is staying even. Two amazingly even matched fighters. Eli is now down to 200 health, down to 51, down to the double digits. One more hit will finish it off. Ica as well is only down to 100. It's down to the last hit as both players are forced to play a little more passively, both trying to bait the other into the first hit so that they can punish two weapons with very, very low recovery. Trying to get some bestial slings in here, some new incantations. An attempt at Flame of Frenzy, but it is punished by Eli's quick thinking as Ica is down for the count.
Incredible finish there with the Flame of Frenzy getting punished by the jump L1. Absolutely phenomenal. I was expecting, to be honest, just a little bit more rock spam, but the rocks only came out once out of that entire round. Kind of surprising to see.
Yeah, absolutely. The attempt at the bestial sling, that's always, you keep it in your back pocket and you throw it out at the last second to try and catch him off guard. Like was very smart about that, not abusing the bestial sling from the very beginning, but unfortunately it still didn't work out. The score is now even as Ica comes back to the ring. Will she be able to take this victory as it's now up to whoever wins the next one. As the countdown goes down, the arrow hits the ground and it is off to the races as she does land the lightning bolt at the start, just as she did in the first round. Could this be a setup for a repeat? The two are now playing a little more passive with each other, being more careful as neither wants to sacrifice this round. I think that was an attempt at a flash drink that did not work as she pulls out a frost pot that also does not land. Eli having the health advantage now this time around. Ica does land one R1 with that amazing backswing with the Shamshir. She does get the Sacred Blade on there for that extra damage. Already below 1,000 health. Eli with a massive health advantage. Ica could be choking a little bit here, but she could still bring it back. She showed very clearly that the damage of that Shamshir is absolutely massive if you can get those hits in. But the question now is, will Eli be able to keep up that same energy for the rest of this match and take it? It's looking like it might go in Eli's favor as Ica's already down to so little health. Going for a parry, absolutely ballsy move, but unfortunately it does not pay off.
Eli takes the round with a 2-1 victory. Really well played by Ica there with the Shamshir. Not something that you see all the time over at this level of play, and a difficult matchup to be sure. Putting a PSSS up against a Shamshir. Now, don't get me wrong, Shamshir is a very strong weapon, has great whiff punish potential. It's very good at getting in and out. That backswing on the shear is absolutely deadly. A lot of times it'll just roll catch on its own without even really needing to time a whole lot. But that three hits at the L1 with the PSSS codeds was enough to take out almost what 75% of Ica's health bar.
Yeah,
So
the
absolutely
damage just
deadly.
absolutely immense there.
We see some Johns in chat as people are rebelling against the PSSS supremacy.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, like, regardless of the turnout, that was an amazing match. It wasn't just some steamroll on the side of the Codeds. Ica put up an amazing fight with that Shamshir, absolutely demolishing in that first round. But it seems that, the Codeds were just too much to handle in the long term. As it is common knowledge at this point that Braun paid off the ERPVP mods to keep Codeds unbanned.
True and factual. So coming up next, it should be Ruth and Hiidohunter coming up into the next round.
Absolutely. And while they get in the world, do you have any comments about that previous match?
To be honest, no, not a whole lot. I think that was a good matchup in terms of skill level. Both players really knew what they were doing. Both played the whiff punish game very well. Um, it just came down to who got the trades, and they took the round, and it was a clean victory. It was a good game. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very cool to see. Yeah, like I was saying earlier with the buffs and changes from 1.09, I was very excited to see what, new weapons people might be using. And I mean, Ica showed right there the potential of the Shamshir. You don't see it a whole lot, but it is very clear, if someone can master that weapon and really get down all the fundamentals and essentials of it, they can absolutely destroy, especially with the power of those backswings. Like a very good Shamshir user, but as someone said in chat, two stock may have carried.
Two stock would have carried true.
Of course, two stock being the most powerful and skillful setup in the game. Trying to think of some more fancy words, but I simply cannot, as I have contracted scarlet brain rot.
And that's all right. So we also have Hiidohunter here, who's going to be doing his first tournament as well. And I believe it's his first showing. And we'll be interested to see what he brings to the table. From what I understand from him, he is playing some off meta, and we might be seeing some
Hmm.
interesting stuff from him as well.
That would be very interesting to see, especially against Ruth. I don't believe I've fought Ruth myself, but I have seen them, milling around the chats.
Yeah, you could describe Ruth as being ruthless. A veteran Souls player, having played for 5 years between DS3 and ER.
That makes me think, is Ruthful a word?
Ruthful?
Yeah, if ruthless is a word, then logically, hold on, I got a Google search to make real quick.
I suppose then Ruth would be the definition of Ruthful, because they are full of ruthiness. Ignore that. Pretend I didn't say that.
And survey says yes, ruthful is actually a word. Full of sorrow, woeful, rueful, causing pity or piteous.
Shows how much we know about the English language.
Absolutely, that's a new one to add to the vocabulary.
But being Americans, you can't hardly blame us. I mean, we didn't exactly make the language, did we?
Absolutely, absolutely. We just well,
Stole it,
improved
like
it.
most of everything else, anyway.
Take and improve. That's what most people do. Here in Canada as well. America takes stuff from other countries. Canada takes stuff from America. I
It
think
sounds like
that's
we're starting to get both the contestants in the world right now. That
according
is
to
correct.
Googler. Yes, thank you, real two stock mosquito.
Real two-stock mosquito. What a name. What a name. So it sounds like there's going to be a very meta setup coming into the field here. And here we see it. We have, I believe that's PSGS, and I can't see what the other person's holding there.
I think that's
Ah,
a
that's it.
HTS. That's a
That's a
Stitcher.
HGS. Yep, that's a Stitcher.
Very cool. Alrighty, starting it off with the physic drink on both sides, as Ruth throws a dagger for a measly little 61 damage. Now trying to a flaming strike coming out of the Stitcher. Let's see. Does land the follow-up R1. It seems Ruth was only able to land one of the GSs for a little bit of damage on Hide, as Hide currently has a little bit of a health advantage. That's a parry?
Oh my
Oh,
god.
oh,
Parry riposte into the PSGS with a dagger swap as well. Absolutely insane gameplay. Ruth is on the ropes.
Mad lad. That is a clip and a half right there. Hito with a massive health advantage now. Just one more hit will finish off Ruth as he has already made his presence known. A complete and utter power move here.
Now, that isn't to be taken any credit away from Ruth here with PSGS. That has potential to clean up the match. Health is coming down.
He
It
is.
is on the ropes, and oh, and
A trade? Amazing duel.
both contestants
That
go
was fun.
down.
Absolute insanity on both sides. Hide getting a early parry, bringing down Ruth to a very low amount of HP, but still Ruth with those power stance great spears, able to grab it by the neck and take that match back, ending it with, I mean, if you can't win, you might as well not lose either.
Insane first round coming down to a draw. So we're going to be resetting that round. But what a way to show off your potential in your very first ever tournament with Hida coming out with a parry.
Amazing. And the arrow comes down, and the next round is beginning as both players drink their physic. Hide was a little late to the physic and ate a jump attack for it. That is the cost of being slow. As it starts out with Ruth having a massive health advantage already, landing those crouching attacks absolutely devastating, already bringing Hide below 1,000 health. Will Hide be able to bring this back in his favor? Pull the same move that Ruth did in the previous match? We'll have to wait and see, as Ruth seems to be just cleaning up here, already down at full health nonetheless.
Incredible stuff. She did have to swap off of the talismans there, so we saw the swap over to the the sword and the Ash of War talismans. Um, it wasn't a flawless victory, but it's still pretty darn close.
Very close. Yeah, only I believe landed like one or two hits. That was very, very impressive. Ruth took that parry, and that did not break Ruth's spirit. They just absolutely taking that. So, and they are now one round up, one more, and they might just 2-0 Hide. Hide might just be able to read the book, though, as the next round is beginning. Hide not being slow to his physic this time, not wanting to make that same mistake as he did before. Ruth now with the carrion phalanx. That is an Ash of War you don't see a whole lot, but it is amazing nonetheless, as Hide does start with the health advantage, but is already brought so low. His tier already popped down to 600 health by just the absolute oppression of those PSGs as he goes for another parry, trying to get a repeat of that first round, but it is just not working out. He wants that flex, but it is just not working out for him. I respect the attempts though, as that's a flail I see he's just pulled out. The man has absolutely lost his mind as the round ends in the favor of Ruth.
Well, GG's to Ruth. That was definitely one of the rounds of all time, to be sure.
Absolutely incredible. Hide trying to, evidently trying to bring a place in the meta for the flails, but it seems no amount of buffs from previous patches can make flails great again. Or well, great at all.
Well, what's interesting is with the poise difference there, with Ruth being restricted to 68 poise due to the poise restrictions on PSGS, a lot of weapons actually have some viability in being able to match up to it. It becomes more of a skill differential as opposed to just a pure damage fest where you're trying to trade into PSGS and you absolutely can't with any kind of setup. So at least you have some potential there with different setups, and so like something with like the HTS actually stands a chance because it can poise break. If it couldn't, then it would be in trouble. Um, but that definitely lent some room to be had. But I don't know about those parry attempts, man. I mean, they kept coming out and they were good. Obviously, it landed one. But on repeated attempts, I think Ruth was getting wise to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems he got really confident after that first parry landed, and he wanted that dopamine rush again. But in the words of the Darkest Dungeon narrator, overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer, and clearly it killed him in these three matches actually because of the first draw and then 2-0'd by Ruth, and Ruth will be moving on to round two. The next round is between Yongyos and Mudkip Pielia.
Does look like it.
Very, very cool.
Angres versus Space.
Oh, true.
Yeah, Angres versus Space Ranger. Space Ranger and Angres coming in next. Now, Space Ranger is a name that we see time and time again. World is open. Players will be getting in there in just a moment. But Space Ranger has taken multiple tournament wins.
Absolutely a powerhouse of a player. Angres, however, is a name I don't believe I've seen before. So just maybe, we'll get a bit of a surprise here. Maybe, Angres, a bit of a up and coming competitor, will take this from Space Ranger, you know?
Absolutely. Now, Space Ranger is one of the things that Space Ranger is most famous for is his go figure spacing. Uh, it's like trying to hit smoke. You just can't catch it. He's always and in out and in safety as soon as you think you have your opportunity, and then you're getting punished for whatever it is that you're doing. So Angers definitely has a difficult matchup coming up here in this next round, but we'll see what they can pull out and see if they can take a win from them.
Absolutely, yeah. Spacing, one of the most important fundamentals a player can learn to become better at this game. And yeah, as you said, Space Ranger has really mastered that fundamental in particular, just staying right on the edge of those weapons and getting that damage in.
And Space Ranger is a fundamentalist, if nothing else. Very good with his movement and his spacing and his understanding of priority, and also uses some very strong weapons that make good use of that. So, we'll most likely see something along the lines of the high end of meta and see what Angers can do to pull it out from him.
Absolutely. And yeah, like that, his previous victories and just his general performance really does go to show just how important fundamentals are in this game. Even if you aren't great with a particular weapon, just an understanding of fundamentals can bring you far and beyond others, as we are now ready in the ring, and the countdown has begun, and the arrow rains from the ceiling, and it starts out. Space Ranger has the Power Stance Great Spears. Angres has already started out. Is that double seals I see with Bestial Sling? It seems he's gone for a full caster setup, spamming between the two seals to try and get some frame traps with those bestial slings. That is something I have not seen in a while. I believe that actually used to be banned on ladder, but at some point was in fact unbanned as far as I am aware. His Space Ranger has already landed a crouching R1. The catch flames coming out from Angres. This is impressive. A pure caster is something I really did not expect to see today, but it is good to see nonetheless. As he throws out, is that a spark aromatic? That is something I don't think I've ever seen in a tournament before. Really impressive stuff coming out from Angres. He is at a health deficit though, only at half. Just trying to challenge these power stance great spears, a very well-known and powerful setup with double seals. He doesn't even have a weapon himself. The main thing he's really got to consider here is the FP. Because if he runs out of FP, what's his backup? Because the second Space Ranger sees him run out of FP, he's probably going to try and put some pressure on. He does try and get the flash gun, and as I said, Space Ranger gets a full jumping attack off to punish Angres's flask chug, as Angres is already down to 200 health. With just one more hit from the Power Stance Great Spears, even if only one of them lands, will likely end this match in favor of Space Ranger, and it is already over.
Absolutely incredible gameplay on both sides though there. Angers there with the double steals coming out with the spells. Really not something that you see very often. I think that the last time that we really saw a lot of magic being casted was, pre slicer nerf. So this is definitely a new one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly surprising. Like it may not be the best setup in the world, but I mean the fact that he has made it to a high enough rank to contend in this tournament means that he quite possibly has the skills to make this work. And it really is down to see if he can possibly read Space Ranger, get the understanding of him, open the biography up, and make use of those incantations. And both players seem to be ready. I believe the countdown will begin soon. There it is, and the arrow comes from the sky to begin this next round. As both players drink their physic, as it seems Angres is back to the double seals, and Space Ranger already starting with a lot of pressure. But it seems Angres is landing a couple of hits. But those two crouching L1s, the panic rolls are being punished. Angres have not appearing to have enough roll discipline to contend with Space Ranger's reading ability and just the ability to get those roll catches, and it is over as quick as that in just 30 seconds. Space Ranger has taken the second round and ended it.
Absolutely incredible. Space Ranger is terrifying with that wave dash. It is nearly impossible to see when he's going to be throwing out that next attack. He goes for three rolls later, and then he lands the attack, not missing a single one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. The reads there and the ability to roll catch, just the understanding of those PSGS. We've got a couple resident sleepers in chat, but despite the PSGS being pretty high up there in the meta, Space Ranger's particular performance with it is just it's a sight to behold. It's an amazing player with an amazing weapon, just showing off the sheer potential and power of them.
And with that round being cleaned up, it looks like we have Young Yas and Mudkip PL coming out for the next round. And
Absolutely. And well, they're getting in the world. Do you have any further comments on that last match?
it was definitely one of the matches of all time, I'll tell you that much. It's not often that you see a pure caster coming out into the ladder. And it was definitely something cool to see. It was nice. It was refreshing. It's not something that I'd like to fight against. Please, no, God, no. I would like to stay away from that as much as possible. That sounds like pain. But conversely, you also have the PSGS out there. So I mean, like, which one would you rather match up against, Pure Caster or PSGS? I think honestly, I'd probably want to match up against the PSGS because it's something that I experience more. I don't often experience a full caster who has actually dedicated time and effort into learning the setup.
And despite the fact that he did lose that match, it is nice to see those kinds of setups that you don't see often. It is, it's refreshing. People can root for an underdog setup. It's nice. And as we were moving on now to Young Yas versus Mudkip PL, two names that I definitely recognize but don't particularly know a whole lot about. Russ, you are definitely the man with the knowledge here. Do you have anything to say on these two players?
Well, I know Mudkip pretty well. He's what I would consider a friend of mine, and I've known him for quite a while now. He has a few setups that he really, really enjoys, and one of them is the famed dagger offlance. We'll see if we actually see that today or not. But he's a player that's come out since the Demon Souls remake, and he is the curator and uh, protagonist of the Duelist Helm.
Interesting. That's very cool. Yeah, as you said, dagger and offhand lance, something that a lot of players probably haven't even considered, but it is really impressive what you can do with a setup like that. Usually you'd expect it to be reversed around with the lance main hand, dagger offhand. What a lot of people aren't aware of is the fact that the lance gets hyper armor when it's in the offhand. The only weapon to have a case like that. I'm not sure if that's a bug or not, but it is still very interesting and gives some potential for some very unique setups and skill.
I am happy to see that bug, if it is, never go away, because it is one of those things that's very unique to see, and I think it's a very interesting thing. And it gives some variety to the build. It's kind of like how Dark Souls 2 had so many different builds that you can work around with, and different setups and different weapon combinations that could be so unique and interesting. Uh, the off lance is one of those few that actually stand out in Elden Ring as being like a unique identity of its own.
Absolutely. And, as you said, I hope that it is a bug they do not fix. Same thing with Perfect Block, though, that one's a little bit more controversial. But specifically, as you said, yeah, the unique skill expression of a unique of the hyper armor on the offhand lance, it's it's really nice and refreshing to see. And honestly, I would love to see more of that. And it really does make you hope for some more unique interactions with DLC weapons, and maybe even some changes in future patches and such.
We have in the chat, we have a discussion on whether or not the one-handed lance damage is even worth it when you have the option of two lances instead of one and a dagger. And, you could definitely argue that. We see it time and again where PSGS comes out reigning supreme. The question is, if there comes a day where power stance damage does get that damage nerf, then well, knowing these other kinds of setups where, you have like for this example, dagger off lance, would that come in handy to know that kind of a way of playstyle? Would that give you some edge over people that have not necessarily been practicing with those alternative setups?
Exactly. And correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't all weapons slightly faster in the offhand by like a frame or two?
Repeat that?
Aren't all weapons slightly faster in the offhand? I know it's the case for some things like dagger and, well, a couple weapons in particular, and that's why people originally started using them in the offhand. Or maybe I'm just thinking of Dark Souls 3. But if it is the case that the offhand lance is even one frame or two faster in the offhand, that alone brings some potential. And the one thing a lot of people don't consider uh, when it comes to offhand weapons is the fact that you can't do running attacks, crouching attacks, whatever, but specifically running attacks. And while a lot of people would say that's a downside, the uh, the really interesting thing a lot of people wouldn't consider with that is that that lets you do a neutral R1 essentially from a running position, which can catch a lot of people off guard. And the question is, however, can it catch someone as seasoned as one of these high-ranking ladder players off guard?
Oh, well, guess we'll have to find out that here today. So we got um, Yas on the left, and we have Mudkip on the right in the red, sporting that duelist great or the duelist helm of his. And I believe we see that dagger off lance.
Absolutely. It's he is dedicated to that. And I believe we're seeing the very classic and well-known Halstock on the side of Yas as the arrow drops and the round is off. And both players drinking their physics. Yas using carrying phalanx on that halberd. It seems well, someone thankfully isn't using that in the passive way you'd expect someone to, as Yas already has that health advantage on Mudkip. Will Mudkip be able to bring it back? It gets the Frost proc, already bringing Mudkip down to 1,000 health. He does land a hit on Yas. Will he be able to take advantage of these hyper armor traits with the offhand lance to steal back that health? He is really forced onto the back foot here. That is a Frost proc, bringing Yas down to just over 1,000 health. But Mudkip is down to only 12, as Yas seems to be planning to finish this with a carrying phalanx, but he misses. Oh, Yas got a pretty sizable amount of damage on Yas, but Mudkip got a pretty sizable damage on Yas, but it just wasn't enough as Yas stole that with the offhand S-Stock.
Now, one thing that I'm finding really interesting here is that neither of these players are using the Bulgod's Talisman, so poise isn't as much of a concern for either of them. What do you think about that option?
Yeah, a lack of Bulgo Talisman. I wasn't even paying attention to that. That's a good catch. But yeah, a lack of Bulgo Talisman is something you don't see a whole lot. Both players maybe kind of realizing that in a matchup like this, you really don't need it because when it comes to the halberd, regardless of how much poise you have, it's not going to be enough to passively poise that halberd due to the poise restrictions. The next round is off to the races, but as I say that, Mudkip appearing to have forgotten to pop his rune arc, starting the match with that, and his physic starting off, thankfully not being punished by Yas, as Yas gets that phalanx up, using that pretty effectively. Both of them getting a little bit of a trade-in at the beginning, equal health here. The Howlstock getting a lot of damage in here and running away, making that space. A
Oh my
backstab
God.
with the dagger. That right there
What a
is an example.
fish!
That right there is an example of where that main hand dagger can shine with something like a backstab. Beautiful to see, showing how easy to strafe potentially the halberd is. But while I wasn't even paying attention, Yoss just kind of poked and prodded him to death.
Yeah, it does happen like that sometimes. It was a really well fought match by Mudkip, but unfortunately, he did go down on that round. Yas taking it with a very clean victory. Really well played on their part. That backstab really threw me off. I did not see that coming, but the fish was perfect. Really, really well played.
Yeah, absolutely. That backstab was so unexpected. I wasn't even paying attention for the rest of the round. I was just caught up on that. That was, d despite the loss, that was impressive and really cool to see.
Absolutely. Well, for first showing from Mudkip, I think that they performed very, very well. Yas continuing on to the next round. Well-deserved victory on that round.
Absolutely, I agree. That was one of the quicker matches for sure, but that does not mean it wasn't interesting. You'll love to see those unique off-meta setups, regardless of how good or bad they are. Like the dagger off lance, he didn't get to show it off a whole lot, but still, regardless, it was interesting. Oh, and I am hearing through the grapevine that Wyatt got a buy here.
I'm missing something. Oh, Scampy didn't show up.
Interesting.
No, Scampy did. Okay, no, I got it. So
Wyatt didn't show up. I see.
Wyatt didn't show up, and then Scampy got the buy. Gotcha. And then next for the next round, we'll be having a witnake and FrigidARC coming in for the next round.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Yeah, as I said earlier, it seems, Skimpy was his sheer presence was just so immense that you know, Wyatt just couldn't stick around. And it's unfortunate to see, but sometimes that's just how it be. It be how it is, and it is how it be.
For this next round, FrigidARC is a newcomer to the scene. They have only been playing for a few months, it seems, and this is going to be their first tournament in any Souls game. Um, And when asked about, their setups and what they tend to find themselves favoring or struggling against, uh, when asked about what setups did they struggle to work against, they said all Lamau in quotes. So we might see some very interesting gameplay from them. I'm very curious to see what they might be bringing out if with that kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, another example of one name I recognize and one I do not. Witnake, I've seen him kicking around a bit. I don't believe I've actually seen him fight before, but FrigidARC is a name I don't recognize at all. And once again, it begs the question: will we see a surprise from this much lesser known player who might be able to take this off of Witnake? We'll have to just wait and see.
One of the great things about these games is that you could be totally new to the game and come out on top of a seasoned veteran player, and all it takes is a better setup. So we'll see what happens here. I'm very curious to find out. But we have witnake coming into the ring as well, and witnake again has been around the block. They've been in a number of tournaments before, and I'll be interested to see what they bring to the table today.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said about a lot of, a victory coming down to who has the better setup. It is true to a hefty degree, but when you've got your fundamentals down to the degree of, say, Space Ranger, you can still very easily, like, you can make use of those fundamentals, like if Space Ranger used a some random little meme setup against even someone like me, pretty average player, he'd probably still cyberbully me because he just has such a immense knowledge of those fundamentals that he can take that stuff.
Absolutely. All it takes is one mistake, though.
It
Well,
does.
more like 3 or 4 mistakes, and then you're dead. But it is what it is. It is Elden Ring. It is the game that we play. One of the games of all
It
time, for
is
sure.
what it is. And you know what? For all of its faults, it's a pretty good game. And
Oh, whoa,
it's only
whoa!
up
Now
from
those
here.
those are some pretty strong words there. Good game. Yeah, it's a game. Ooh, careful with those. Careful with those words there.
True, true. Elden mid, as
Elden
we all
mid.
know. Elden mid.
All right, we got both contestants in the ring here.
Oh boy, and the first thing my eyes have locked onto is a power stance coated, pulling no punches here on the side of Witnake.
And Frigid taking his post at the top of the arena there. He is already claiming his space as the goat of the arena.
Trying to impose his presence. And as from the Bat 30, Elden mid, the best esport of 2023, absolutely esports ready. Put this game on whatever that big tournament is, who knows.
Is that an HTS?
I think so. Is that the HTS I think it is? Is that Dragon King's Cragblade?
It might unfortunately be so. This might be an interesting match.
Absolutely. I'm very curious about how he'll fare in trying to get that Ash of War off. He's quite late to the chug, as Whitnake's already putting on a massive amount of pressure, running straight at him, getting in his face, but he's already backing up as Frigid goes for the Ash of War. It does not land, but he doesn't actually get punished for it. It does have a pretty low recovery, all things considered. It seems he's going for a shield poke build, which is quite impressive. You don't see that a whole lot. Another example of a, lesser considered off-meta build that is, it used to be at the top to the point where it had to be banned on the ladder for quite some time as he goes for another Ash of War, but he's already brought down to just 520 health, but his tears have not procced yet. But with how low his health is, it might just tear skip, and that's a parry against Witnake. Amazing. Another parry in this tournament. You just love to see it, bringing Witnake down to half health, but will it even matter as Frigid's down to the triple ones as Witnake tries to land the... Frigid going for another attempt at a parry, trying to get it back again. He's still alive. Witnake not quite able to finish him off, and he finally gets it. Amazing. Parrying Codids. What a mad lad.
Absolutely insane. And you can see there, he was actually ready for the parry too. He's got the dagger talisman set up on his loadout.
Yeah, absolutely. He was expecting that parry and he got it. He may have lost, but he definitely won the respect of Chad over here as they are just absolutely rooting for him right now with the styled on plus rep Siberia diff.
And we're going to be setting up for the next match here. We'll see how the combatants adjust here. It was interesting to see the shield poke coming out. I actually really didn't expect that when I saw the shield I did expect the parry, but not the shield poke. That wasn't something that I was expecting, and particularly against Codeds, where it's pure holy damage. You're not going to be absorbing a whole lot of that damage that's coming through. A lot of it's going to be chipping its way through there. So kind of a, you know, interesting choice.
Yeah, absolutely. That was beautiful to see. And I believe, th this may be a little bit of a prediction here, but I think witnake is going to take a bit more of a neutral or even passive approach in this next round as the countdown goes down. The threat of that parry, albeit it may be a little bit of a dice roll, it seems Frigid did forget to pop his rune arc, but witnake is a respectful man, letting him get that off before beginning. You love to see that, combatant to combatant respect there. But witnake, however, is now giving Frigid absolutely no respect, no longer respecting that parry, going for a lot more jump attacks now, as those are not parryable. Even still, Frigid trying to parry that jump attack in some hopes that FromSoft may have made some change, and just like that, it is over just as quickly as it started. Fat rip.
Witnick taking the clean 2-0. Well, we didn't have the pleasure of seeing the second parry coming out there on that second round there, but it was definitely a cool experience. This is a rare sight in tournaments where we've had two different parries, and I think both times against straight swords.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really really fun to see. These attempts at fun stuff. I do think these little goofy attempts and stuff will be happening a little less as the rounds go on and people lock in a little bit more. But definitely in these first rounds, people really just seeing the experimenting, the off meta setups, all of that. It wasn't. I didn't expect it. I'll be honest, but it is a pleasant surprise. 100%. It is lovely to see.
And for the next round, we'll be having Braun the Goat making his first appearance in this tournament today, along with Maud.
Wonderful Braun, the number one ladder player, still I believe currently, right?
Braun, the Terror of Mag.
Absolutely, the well-known repper of of the power stance codeds. It I really wonder what I'm gonna be seeing out of him today.
We could only wonder, to be honest, but we do know that Mod is coming out with Power Stance Spears. What do you think about that matchup? Power Stance Spears and Power Stance Codeds.
It is a really interesting setup matchup because the power stance spears do have that poise restriction again, while the power stance straight swords do not. But the what the power stance spears do have is speed and range. It really will come down to if Maud can outspace somebody as skilled and experienced as Braun. But if he is, he may be able to take this. Codeds themselves like they have quite a bit of range, all things considered, as well as that forward movement on the L1s. So, I mean, it really is a question of how far those partisans can reach.
That is true. Now, correct me, I'm not sure. Does the L1 poise break on 68 poise? I believe it does.
I'm
It
not
does?
sure. Can anyone in chat fact check that?
Chatters, check me on my poise numbers.
Any
Please tell me.
chatters? Any chatters in chat?
There's only 100 of you. Come on. L1 is 69, so it does. Wait, what? Yeah,
Interesting.
so
So it
it
will
does
poise
break
break
forward.
in one. That will be interesting to see. Definitely brings in the potential for a lot of mashing out of hit stun.
And for every reason to do so as well. The spears lose priority immediately after that first hit connects. And they have to get back to safety.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, spears are definitely a more aggressive weapon than the power stance straight swords, but with the poison consideration, Braun might just have the ability to I mean, power walk at his opponent and get those L1s in, and the damage of the codeds, especially in subsequent hits, is just massive. So it really begs the question of just what Maud is going to do about this.
I think we have a bit of a surprise here.
Is this a power stance spear mirror match? Braun not on the codeds? That is a first that I've seen. This may be a lot more interesting than I first envisioned, as both players are running the power stanced partisans. What do you think of this?
Absolutely insane. Both of them going at it. The health differential is already back down to about 60% on either side. Braun with a bit of a health advantage here. Mod is on the back foot trying to get out of space of Braun. And they're getting some interesting lat there. I think we want to check in on that, but the players seem to be responding to it just fine, but health comes back down to about under 50% on both sides.
You love to see it. Yeah, these mirror matches, first one of the day, and it is an interesting one. Power stance spears aren't something that I've personally seen a whole lot in ladder, but that just may be my own luck. And it is really interesting to see two really good players with these setups going at it. His mount is already really low health. Bronze tier hasn't even been popped, but there is still the potential that Maud could rip this back from Bronze hands. But unfortunately, the answer is no.
Braun the Goat showing why they are in fact the terror of Mag even to this day.
Even outside of his chosen battleground of Mag, he is an absolute demon on the battlefield, bringing in his first stock. I wonder now, is there going to be any change ups to these setups? Ooh, ooh. Are you seeing what I'm seeing right now on
Yeah, it
screen?
looked like they forgot to rest at the Grace, so they're just gonna walk back over to the teleporter to get themselves back into the arena. It'll be fine.
A little bit of running in place. I thought that was lag, and I was about to get really scared.
No. But it is important to note that the tournament host is actually regioned in West
NA
Coast.
West, yeah.
Yeah, NA West. So we will always be seeing a relative amount of lat to all of our players here, since everyone here is EU.
But I mean, even considering that the connection has been like quite good so far, and the next round has kicked off, both players chugging their physics, and it has begun a synchronized buff with those lightning greases, both missing multiple attacks right off the bat. Those interactions are always really entertaining to watch, as both players are just vying. Only one of the spears landed on the side of Maud, but Braun landed both as he switches off to. Ooh, that is the Rotten Winged Sword insignia, trying to get the extra damage in on those subsequent hits, taking advantage of the phantom hits that EU Lat can potentially provide, but these players may just have a good enough latency to each other that it won't even matter. As Maud is using both the Godskin Swaddling Cloth and Blessed Dew Talisman, trying to get as much health returns as he can in this match, as he does currently have a pretty hefty health advantage. Really interesting to see now. The match seeming to go a much different way as Braun is forced onto the back foot, but now returning the pressure. Maud still having a pretty nice health advantage.
Oh, and about half of their health is taken out by one single set of L1s from Braun. Both health is really low. Both sides are about even, down at about the 30% mark. Tears have been procced, and it goes for the L1, and Mod takes the win. We have a 1-1.
Interesting. You love these rounds, these matches that go to the third round. Is they go on a little longer. People start getting cold feet, shaky hands. It becomes a game of who will get this final round, as nerves start to set in, and both players want this last round, both trying a lot harder, both having a much better idea of how each other play, maybe evening the match out just a little bit. We may get some surprises here. We will just have to see as both players get set up once again.
With the third match coming down underway, what do you think we're going to see as some adjustments? I think that one thing that I noticed is that one of the players has the Great Jar Talisman on and the other does not. So one of them is optimized for more damage output, whereas the other one is optimized for potentially more endurance to be able to maintain more pressure. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be going that way. We do not have the build previews this time around, but you can tell to a degree just by, the damage differences, the talisman choices, all that, what these people are going for. And while it is, quite possible that one is going for more damage while one is going for a bit more optimized armor, uh, the low poise does actually have some benefit in that it allows you to oh ooh ooh that was funky. Uh, what was I saying? The low poise of the armor does allow you to have a bit of a lower endurance stat.
That is true. That is true. And we have the countdown coming out, and Bolt is away. Both players drink their physic, and the match begins. And we see a little dart coming out there. Fan daggers
Ooh
are banned, so these are just normal daggers coming out as their
ooh
projectiles. But I'm seeing a lot of lat on the screen, and I'm not.
yeah.
It looks like the players
Both
are.
players are seeing it as well. They've realized it, and they are. It seems that they themselves are taking a pause just to let things settle. It does seem to be a bit better now, but we will be keeping an eye on that connection. Both players trading right off the bat. Braun already with the health advantage. Three talisman swaps on the side of Maud, with Rotten Wing, Sword Insignia, Godskin, Swallowing Cloth, and Blessed Dew, going for a lot of damage. Braun going for, it seems, more damage on Ashes of War. I actually haven't seen any Ashes of War come out yet to make use of that Alexander shard, using all four swap talismans. Really interesting to see. Maud already on the back foot. He does get Phantom procced with the Frostpot. Braun having an absolutely immense health advantage down to only one more hit, and he gets the roll catch.
That was one of the fights of all time.
Absolutely. A little bit of net issues near the start, but both players respected it and let it settle, and the rest of the round played out mostly clean.
Yeah, just reading in on
Going
what
for, it
they're
seems,
talking
more
about in the
damage on
chat room
Ashes
right
of
now to
War.
make
I
sure that
actually haven't
we're
seen
calling
any
that
Ashes
a
of War come out
successful
yet
round.
to make use of that
Yeah, it looks
Alexander
like
shard, using
yeah.
all
And
four
there you see
swap
the roll catch
talismans.
coming out
Really
with the
interesting to
power stance
see.
L1s and the
Maud
frost
already on the
pot.
back foot. He does get Phantom procced with the Frostpot. Braun having an absolutely immense health
A lot of
advantage down to
footsies
only
coming in
one
this
more
kind of
hit,
a setup with the
and he
mirrors.
gets the roll
It's really
catch.
all about outspacing and trying to bait that roll so that you can
That
get
was
one of the
the roll
fights of all
catch with the
time.
L1s.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a 2-0 for Braun, and he will be moving on. Braun, an absolute powerhouse in the arena. It is really nice that he went for a mirror match rather than the typical code, is, shaking things up a little, making it a more interesting match to see. And to a degree, that's what you want, is some more flashy rounds. That was an interesting message sent in chat, very quickly deleted by a moderator. Lol Italians. Thank you, Taco.
And for the next round, we're going to be having Scampy coming in again along with Eli. And Scampy showing their skill in the previous round with having completely swept their opponent without even having to swing their weapon. Absolutely incredible gameplay. It is going to be a wonder to see what they can pull off in this round.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to see how these rounds go on. As the first matches, every once in a while you might get a more experienced player matched up against a less experienced player, a bit of a steamroll. Sometimes you get those really nicely even matches. However, as we move on to these later rounds, we're going to see a lot closer matches as the better players are pitted against each other to see who really is the best out of the lot that have been selected for this tournament. And I'm very excited to see how these next rounds go.
And just as a reminder to everyone, this is a $85 tournament where the top place prize is going to be a $50 win. And if you would like to see more lucrative gameplay that pushes people to the edge of their seats a little bit more in terms of what they're willing to do to earn that extra bit of cash, you can always sub to the channel with your Twitch Prime subscription and show your support to the Den.
Absolutely. Give us your money. We want your money. You should give us your money right now.
Do it nicely. Thank you.
I'm no longer asking. Oh,
Honest Faraday with a Twitch Prime subscription. What a champion. The people's champion, if we're honest. The honest Faraday.
extremely honest Faraday. Some good old copy pastes going on in chat. You love to see the copy pastes people come up with to repeat. And the next match is beginning. The arrow has gone out, and that is a glintstone Chris starting off the match with a nice little bit of damage, as we are seeing Power Stance Codeds versus Power Stance Great Spears, two absolute superpowers in the meta, and that was a uplifting aromatic giving him that bubble. Actually, you know what I just saw? Both players just capitalized off of that uplifting aromatic. As Eli got close up, he as well got the bubble and that damage buff. Scampy unintentionally buffing his opponent.
Yeah, this is one of the features of seamless co-op. The platform that we're playing on right now is that anytime that you're buffing with one of these area of effect kind of spells, including healing incantations, it affects both players, whether or not you are on the same side.
Yeah, absolutely. As Better Grith says, seamless moment. As both players are getting into the lower ends of health. Scampy's taken back that health disadvantage before, as both players are now in the 700 health range. Ooh, Eli taken down to 400 with one hit. It may only take, one, maybe two more hits to finish the job, as we see a hard swap to a Stitcher on the side of Scampy, swapping back to the Lances. A jumping attack to absolutely obliterate Eli at the end.
Phenomenal play on the side of Scampy. Beautiful swaps, being really quick with them, and coming out on top, even with full feather swaps as well. Look at that, fully optimized. I can see why their previous opponent was swept in a clean sweep without even having to show their face.
Yeah, absolutely. Really impressive stuff. It is, a lot of people will mock and make fun of these meta setups for how streamlined they can seem, but when two really good players with two really good setups go toe to toe, it is still really interesting to see. Just the sheer skill expression that these players have.
And again, something to keep in mind is that and we've got the bolt coming out. And well, we have a Runar coming out as well. We'll see if he gets into space. He does not. Scampy jumps on him and takes a bit of health as punishment for not getting that Runar off in the beginning of the match. And a Moonveil swap. The Power Stance Code is coming out and giving some pressure over to Scampy. Scampy's having to back off a little bit and give Eli a little bit of room. Frostpot's coming out. Phalanx coming out. Both players are playing a bit of the range game just to keep a little bit of pressure from the range side of things. But we might see that Moonveil come back up, but instead we see a Glintstone Pebble. It seems like he's fully set up for this range kind of pressure as much as he can handle. But Eli is more than happy to give that space to him while the Phalanx hovers around his head. Phalanx is down, he comes in for the punish, and he gets the punish, but only to be punished back with multiple Crouch L1s from the Power Stance Great Spears.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting to see. At first, I thought this was more of a Dex build. I didn't even notice the Higher Dust Crown, but it does seem that Scampy is going for a more int-heavy build, which does explain the Phalanx and will give that Phalanx a pretty solid bit more damage. It is interesting to see Power Stance Lances on a Intelligence build, something you don't see very often, and that Moonveil swap. Just the one of the big strengths of an intelligence weapon based build is you do have some really powerful hard swaps like the Moonveil or the Glintstone Chris.
Oh,
Ooh, as we can see Scampy bringing Eli down. I was gonna say something about that, but he just brought it out so fast. Scampy bringing in the 2-0.
There's an interesting moment there with the animations. I think that might have been something on the world host side of things. But that was definitely a clean victory by the Zada Scampi.
Lance is
Um,
down. He comes in for the punish,
it,
and he
you
gets
know,
the
I have to
punish, but
wonder
only to
what
be
that
punished by
stack
Spread
with
looks like. 'Cause he's got to
multiple
have,
crouch
Crouch
L1s
L1s
from
from
the
the
Power
Power
Stone's
Stone's
Great
Great
Spears.
Lances. He's got to have the, what is it, 23
Yeah,
dexterity
it
for
is.
the
It's
Moonveil
it's
swap,
interesting to see.
and
At
then
first,
however
I
much
thought
int
this
goes
was
into
more
that
of
as
a
well.
dex
It's
build.
such
I
an
didn't even
interesting
notice the
and
higher dust
diverse
crown,
build,
but it
like
does seem
lots and
that
lots of
Scampy
different
is
options
going
available in that
for
kind of
a more int-heavy build,
stat loadout.
which does explain absolutely taking the full phalanx advantage and will of give that the phalanx a pretty solid higher bit dust more crown. damage. It Getting is interesting to see bit Power of Stance lances every on little a stat he can intelligence to get build, that build going. something you don't see Really, very often. And that really nice Moonveil stuff swap, seeing
Just
the one of the bit big different strengths from the of an typical, intelligence Faith or weapon-based strength build you see a lot. Is you do have
it
some
seems like the
really
replay has
powerful hard
audio of its
swaps
own. We're
like
gonna have to
the
keep that muted if at all
Moonveil or
possible.
the Glintstone Chris.
Oh,
Ooh, as we can see Scampy bringing Eli down. I was gonna say something about that, but he just two Ponkos in my head. So I am all in your head. I'm not actually here. I have simply manifested in your skull.
you may not have known this, but Ponko is omnipotent.
Absolutely multiple places at once.
Well, that was a very, very good round there from Scampi coming out and showing why it is that he is in the place that he is, and he's going to be moving on to the next round to face off with Braun the Goat. But for the next round, we have Ruth and Space Ranger coming out next.
Ruth versus Space Ranger. That is going to be interesting. I believe both were using Power Stance Great Lances, right?
Um, Sorry, I was reading over what was going on in our little Discord here, but
Oh, yeah.
with you know what? It was 5 minutes ago, and I don't even remember what they were using. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Fair enough. With so many matches going by, they blur. But I do believe both players were using PSGS, so we might just see the PSGS mirror here. That would be very interesting to see, especially with to just one of the main things with fighting PSGS really is just that roll discipline. If you aren't careful, they can just roll catch chain you into oblivion, especially someone with the amazing reads of Space Rangers. So we'll see if Ruth can contend with this.
It'll be a difficult match, but to be sure. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to who can make the right play and win. So both players have been around the scene for a long time. Both know the matchup. Both know probably have played each other a good number of times too. So let's see what can come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very excited to see how this goes.
As far as that last round goes, what did you think? Any final thoughts about that last round?
It was definitely one of the matches of all time, I'll say that much. It was I mean, yeah, like I said before, seeing two very powerful setups like PSSS and PSGS going at it against each other is always, I mean, to a degree, it's just as interesting to watch as off-meta setups. Just depends on who you are, really, I guess. And as Better Grith gives some amazing advice to the fighters here, just win lol. That is definitely the way to go.
All right, I'm back. Some technical issues happened there for a second, but we seem to be back.
Very good.
And
Mira SL pulling out the I'm not even gonna guess what language that is because I mean I think it's just Spanish, but I really don't want to be wrong.
Bevan is asking for some background music, but I have to say, I think that the sound of my voice is just enough music to soothe your ears for the ends of time. I'm gonna now end that by continuing to not talk anymore because that was awkward as hell.
Absolutely, the Rust Bucket ASMR. Everyone's been asking for it, and it really is just a question of when we will get the ASMR on Rust Bucket's channel. But it seems we are in place. Both combatants are ready. Not sure what Ruth is. Oh, that's a Shamshir. Okay. So it's PSGS versus Shamshir. Right, Ruth was using the sacred Shamshir. That was very fun to watch. I'm quite curious to see how that will perform against the PSGS, as both players are starting out with a lot of footsies. But Space Ranger landing two crouching L1s, Ruth actually mashing R1 into it, landing one of them. Space Ranger already getting a heal off of that Godskin Swaddling Cloth he has equipped. He has taken damage, but he still has both the Ritual Sword and Shield Talisman on. Ruth clearly giving enough pressure to not give Space Ranger enough time to swap off of those talismans. Just the amazing pressure of the Shamshir. It is an unpredictable weapon. Space Ranger just does not know, if he tries to take some time to swap off, Ruth might just come in with the R1 mashes and take a huge chunk of his health. So it is good in just a almost passive pressure. But Ruth does have a bit of a health disadvantage, but is taking it back as both players are roughly equal. This is really nice to see. Both players now around the 500 health mark. You'll love to see it. Something that, again, you don't see a whole lot, like Shamshir really contending with PSGS. It's a sight to behold as Ruth takes another 700, 800 health away from Space Ranger, now having a health advantage with Shamshir. Space Ranger just trying to think of what to do. He might be panicking a little even, as Ruth is just piling on that pressure, and those R1s with that Shamshir, the second coming of PKCS, but only down to 29 health now, and Space Ranger took it back in the end.
Phenomenal gameplay on both ends. Space Ranger coming back with the PSGS to seal the deal. Honestly, it only would have taken one good JL1 from that kind of weapon to be able to put her away, but Ruth was able to stave off the pressure long enough to be able to get a good chunky amount of damage in. At that red feather range and that blue feather range, it's really hard to finish off that fight, especially against weapons with such high pressure and high damage, where it only takes really one good hit to finish the round.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving how these matches are going. They are just all of them so entertaining and fun to watch, each with their own little dare I say quirks. Little bit
Again,
quirky.
with that 68 poise restriction, it does make a huge difference in allowing the Shamshir to have a chance in this matchup, and Ruth is making good use of it. So here we go again with another round. Both combatants are on the wrong sides. The bolt is out, and they're going away. A little bit of glintstone scraps to start things off.
Yeah, two glintstone scraps off the start. Ruth already with a decent health advantage there. With the Shamshir, you really can just steal their health so fast. In the blink of an eye, you can get so many hits in with Shamshir. It is now 14 frames, which theoretically would make it nearly unreactable. It is somewhat held back by the overhand nature of the attacks, but that clearly is not having any effect on Ruth, as they've just taken no damage yet. Space Ranger already down below 1,000 health. Ruth piling it on. This completely unexpected for many people. Ruth just displaying her sheer skill and power with the Shamshir, taking this round from Space Ranger, and it evens out 1-1.
Ruth with the PKCS going ham, showing what DS3 was all about.
Absolutely. As I said, the second coming of PKCS. Beautiful to see.
Got both combatants back into the ring, and we're going to get the third round underway. Ruth again versus Space Ranger on the correct sides this time, and we have the countdown 3, 2, 1, and the bolt is out.
Alrighty, we're getting it off once again, starting with the Shamshir not going for the Sacred Blade off the bat, which is a bit interesting. A little bit of a trade off the bat, which I think only one of the Parastan's Great Spears actually landed. They're still equal health, both switching off of their Crimson Amber medallions, still being at full health, but Ruth having a slight health advantage just out of the sheer higher max health.
Ruth getting in a bit of damage, putting all the pressure down on Space Ranger. Space Ranger having to react to those backswings on the Shamshir and getting a couple of hits in on Ruth, putting them on their back foot as well. We see a little bit of footsies down in neutral. Unlocked movement from Space Ranger trying to outspace that Shamshir, and he does. Able to get down on Ruth. 3 crouching L1s to punish Ruth for the spacing. And Ruth putting on the pressure now, cutting Space Ranger into a quarter, and he's on super low health. Both players on their ears popped. Words are hard.
Words can absolutely be hard. The English language is a challenging one, and you know, while this round goes on, real quick, I would like to thank Gardinaros for the Twitch Prime sub. I think we missed that a little bit. Just so enraptured by this round going on, as Ruth seems to be seeking to clean it up, but on only 730 health. It's very possible that Space Ranger could pull it back very quickly, but Ruth manages to take it from Space Ranger, winning the 2-1 with a Shamshir.
Incredible gameplay. Well played by Ruth, well played by Space Ranger. Very good round on both combatants' parts, and Ruth will be moving on to the next round. To punish Ruth
Beautiful,
for the
beautiful
spacing.
stuff, showing that Shamshir really is a force to be reckoned with. Definitely a weapon to be considered by more players. And, you know, considering the amount of people who not only watch this stream, but will be watching the VOD and clips and such, it makes you wonder how many people might just pick up Shamshir seeing its performance against these meta setups.
The chat seems to be in agreement that the Shamshir has, secured its place in this meta. It has a great matchup into PSGS, and there's even some debate on to whether or not the Shamshir has good matchup into fully poised PSGS, and there seems to be a lot of support for it as well. Really interesting to see.
Yeah, it is always great to see, someone taking a really good but, lesser considered weapon and really saying like, "Hey, this is a thing. Give it a shot. It can work," and really well at that.
And Ruth was able to show that to us today. For the next round, we're going to be having Yas against witnake again. Or not again, but for the first time. And what do we think that we're going to see in this matchup coming up?
Sorry, who is it again?
Yas and witnake.
Yas and witnake. Witnake was on the Power Stance Codeds. I don't quite remember what Yas was on. I think. No, I don't think that was another PSGS. But yeah, like
It was Housestock.
Hellstock, right? Uh, I'm yeah, Codeds versus Hellstock. That might be an interesting matchup because the one thing that Codeds typically have in scenarios is the advantage of poise because they don't have a poise restriction. They can go all the way up to, I think the restriction is 113 poise, or no, it's 112. But the halberd, even one-handed, does 125 poise damage with an R1, meaning that every single hit with that halberd will poise break the codeds. So I wonder if the Hellstock will be able to keep some solid pressure up against the codeds. The one advantage that codeds have, they're fast, they have range, and if Witnake can make the reads of when Yas is going to go for those off-stock hits, he might just be able to win those trades without even having to worry about the poise breaking of the halberd.
Now I'm curious about what are your thoughts about Hal Stock versus Hal Dagger in terms of this matchup against
Ooh,
PSS,
Hellstock versus Halldagger objectively, or specifically versus Codeds?
particularly versus Codeds.
Um, in all honesty, I think when it comes to an offhand weapon against Codeds, you want as much speed as you can get because the range doesn't really matter because the Codeds will easily outrange a S-Stock. However, the thing about the dagger is it does have step and it does have a range that will surprise a lot of people, uh, and at the same time it has very low recovery. So even considering the speed of the codeds, with the right timing and reads, you can get a solid L1 in with the dagger and roll out before the coded can retaliate.
Right. The speed of the dagger is really what's most scary about it. I mean, aside from the ability to even hit, it just the presence of it is really what makes it such a powerful offhand weapon. Um, Avoiding any amount of chip as possible when you're in these kinds of matches where it's such a high skill floor. You really want to be avoiding as many trades as you possibly can, and the dagger definitely allows for that a lot better than the S-Stock does. However, it does allow you a little bit of range. That range isn't really going to matter when you're up against Parsnip straight swords.
Yeah, absolutely. Gonna have to reconnect real quick to
We
get
have a
the
change of
visual
weapons
back
here.
up. There we go. All right. Is that a scythe I see on the side of Yoss?
Scythe, yeah.
That is a scythe. Scythe off stock. I can't see the weapon he is in his offhand. It's blocked by the scythe a little bit. But that is something I wasn't expecting to see. Especially against something like Codens.
3, 2, and a 1, and it's away, and both combatants are out. Both physics have been drank. Is that a
That
ripple
is
cop?
Ripple Crescent Halberd.
I I'm just full of surprises, I guess, today, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. A really good weapon you typically only really see in arena where people are just going to abuse the latency. I think that is in fact sleep grease on that. I wonder. Okay, so he doesn't have a hard swap with that, but that is a bleed proc, absolutely demolishing Witnake's health. This man is wow, the sleep. I can't say I was expecting it, but it is interesting to see how it can perform on good lat, even though it's mainly reserved for high lat, and that's why it was banned in cross region. It's it's impressive to see. It is still amazing on same region.
Absolutely, and he gets the bolus off. He's trying to jump the attack of the halberd as well, something really
Oh,
dangerous to do. But the dagger comes out and puts it Witnick away. Yas with the first stock.
another bleed proc, and as Amir said, sleep halberd jump scare. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, literally a jump scare. I just I saw the scythe and I was like, oh, okay, scythe gave me cool.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're gonna see some little off meta with the scythe. That's interesting. I don't know how well that'll fare against coders, but oh, that's a ripple. Yeah, as some, there's a little bit of a conversation on whether the ripple is good on low lat, but the thing is, on NA, it would be far less of a latency discrepancy because, people are typically a lot closer together. But the thing about EU is people can still have pretty decent latency to each other. As Shield Poke is saying, this could still be, within the area of 100 plus MS latency to each other, in which case the Sleep Halberd is more than capable of taking advantage of those phantom hits.
Absolutely, and I think that they made a good call here. Is that having it kind of in the back pocket where you don't see it until the match starts was a good play because I don't think anybody was prepared for that. You didn't have time to swap talismans or swap armor or anything. Nobody saw that coming. But we'll see if the adjustments are made in this round with 3, 2, and a 1, and the bolt is away, and we still see the ripple out. We do see the talisman swap over
Scythe?
to the clarifying. And Scythe comes out to match it, and the swap off of the talisman is made immediately. So we'll see how the adjustments are made from here. And they get an L1 with the codeds. Goss trying to get in with that Scythe, but not quite able to do it.
Yeah, the scythe is, as previously stated, a very interesting choice, especially against something as oppressive as Codeds. And I mean, even still, he secures a decently damaging attack against witnake, but witnake just has such a health advantage. It seems that Yoss has been, given a bit more confidence having a roundup on witnake, perhaps even trying to extend the match a little bit to bring it into the third round. He has swapped to the Halig Drake Talisman, which, albeit a low amount of holy resistance, sometimes a little bit is better than none, but it does not matter as Witnake tears the victory from him.
A fairly close round to say, none of the least, because Witness got down there to about the 30% health range. That Scythe put in some work, but I think what put in the most amount of work during that fight was actually the dagger. The dagger did probably the most amount of damage during that entire exchange, with bleed procs and everything else coming off from it as well. Just the presence of that dagger, like we were saying before, gives Yas a good amount of pressure um, to be able to encourage rolls out of Witnick, not able to close in with those codeds. But if he just ignores it and goes for that L1, then he's able to trade out a huge amount of damage. And we'll see what adjustments are made for this next upcoming round.
Yeah, absolutely. As both players are just getting ready, making their way into the arena, and it seems they are both ready now. As Yas appears to be sticking with the scythe, his, not losing that confidence, really wanting to take this last round with the scythe. As Whitney tries to get in a lightning bolt off the bat, but it does not land. As the sudden swap to the Ripple Halberd, trying to, bring back how effective it was from the first round, and as well, as you said earlier, Russ Bucket, it can be very surprising. But Whitnick did get the safety and opportunity to swap to the what is that? The sleep talisman. So the buildup will be a little bit less of a problem against him, making good use of those talisman swaps. As Yas is only running the spear talisman, he has swapped now from the ritual shield talisman to bullgoat talisman, getting a little bit more poise against those codes. Not sure if that really makes a difference with the amount of poise he has, but either way, he has now swapped to the Halig Drake talisman. I believe that's only a 5% resistance buff, but I mean, Yas is just getting absolutely destroyed right now by these codeds, already brought down to about 550 health. Oh, but he does take a decent bit of health back with a bleed proc against Witnake. That dagger just builds up that status so fast. It really is now just up to, will Witnake land this one last hit? Oh, he takes it before I even finish my sentence.
Witnick takes the next round, and I want to point something out there during that round. Something that I noticed was Witnick barely took any phantom hits. They perfectly rolled most of those attacks from that halberd.
Yeah, absolutely. Being from a region like Witnake, as someone said, I believe like Eastern Russia, he probably only really fights people on latency. And to a degree, that has been, I mean, evidently some solid training for him to be able to roll even with a pretty heavy latency.
Witnick cannot be spelled without W. True chatter.
So true.
And with that, we're coming up to the semifinals. And for the first round of the semifinals, we're going to having Braun the Goat, the Terror of Mag, versus Scampy, the newcomer to the scene. Now, it's important to remember here that both combatants, or at least from what we've seen, is Scampy is running that PSGS setup with some hard swap options over to things like Moonveil and to HTS for some mix-up pressure. And then we also have Braun the Goat with, I think he was running the Power Stance Spears the last couple of rounds. Is that right?
Who, sorry? Which one was running Power Stance?
Braun?
Braun. Right, yeah. He did a mirror match with the Power Stance Spears first, but in all honesty, I think he might swap off to something like Codids or just another setup in general, unless he really is dedicated to those Power Stance Partisans today. At first, I thought maybe it was just to have a little fun with a mirror match, but who knows? Maybe Braun is finally putting the Codids away and pulling out a different setup.
Well, in this particular instance with going up against Power Stance Great Spears, that poise isn't really going to matter. So he can afford to go for the lower poise numbers there. And you don't have something like Storm Stomp to pressure that is going to scare you into running 100 poise. So he has all the reason in the world to run those Power Stance Spears, if anything.
Yeah, absolutely. The poise is typically a big contributor to these things, as we are now in the semifinals. It it's getting the nerves might be going up just a little bit more as these players are now vying to get into the finals, to get into these final this final match and win their $50. But either way, everyone, I believe, currently in, no, sorry, that's not how that works. Uh, this will determine who will be going home with that, hefty $50.
Right, and we're seeing a little bit of mind games, you could call it, in chat. It seems that the state of affairs of Elden Ring has started to get to some of the people in chat where they are now acting themselves in chat and failing to recognize that, they're talking to themselves and not at other people, and they don't even realize it. It's crazy. It shows you,
Schizophrenia.
yeah, it runs wild here in Elden Ring in the Souls community. It's a thing. It's something to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. Schizophrenia Awareness Month. You know, I may be in your walls, but I hope that I'm also in your heart. We have now transitioned, and that is fists that I'm seeing on the side of Braun. Something that I mean, even when it was meta, I think he was just practicing. Some other players definitely made some heavy use of that. I'm not sure how extensively Braun really used it though, but it has taken quite the hit from 1.09. No longer having that those 50-50 mix-ups that it did in the previous patch. The hit stun on the R2 has been significantly reduced, but I'm now quite curious whether just how much Braun will be able to make use of it. Will he still be going for those R2s, or will he be going for a more R1 heavy playstyle? It remains to be seen, as he has yet to throw out a single attack as he finally goes for a jumping attack. Neither player appearing to have lost any health yet, unless I missed something. But yeah, so much footsies. Both players just absolutely locked in, trying their hardest.
There's a little bit of phalanx damage to start off the match, but other than that, and there we get with the running R1 from Braun to Goat, getting in on those G-Spears, and the G-Spears coming out and putting in a little bit of work on their own, and Flaming Strike from the fist weapon.
Yeah, it's so far, no R2s coming out. A lot of running R1s, which, I mean, the running R1s are good in their own right because, I mean, they're just so fast to a degree. They're unreactable. So, I mean, Scampy has to make these reads in order to avoid them. He eats one flaming strike, but not the second. He does have the ability to roll that. He is proficient at that. Scampy currently with a slight health advantage over Braun. Both players still at very high health. You know, something I didn't consider to mention until now. These matches are probably going to go on quite a bit longer than the first few, because I mean, not only because there are more rounds in general now, as you can see, having three stocks rather than two, but both players, you know, playing a little more passively, a little more carefully, just, you know, trying a lot harder in general. As Braun now has a nearly double health advantage over Scampy, getting those running R1s in, it is just, you know, those fists, it's impressive how fast they can just, you know, tear away your health bar.
Those fist weapons are putting in a lot of work, putting in the pressure on Scampy. Scampy's on the back foot. Braun still with a really good health advantage here. Hasn't had his tier proc or anything. Looking really good. And a little bit of neutral coverage, but trying to get in on that PSGS. It's definitely difficult to get in, but once you do, then you know it's game on. You know, PSGS coming out with a little bit of crouch action, a little bit of jump action from the fist weapons. Oh, they get a ton of damage in,
Ooh,
and Scampy is put away by the running R1 of the fist weapons, and Braun takes the first stock.
two Lance, one Cup has died. That is one of the names of all time. Yeah. Uh, Fists winning that, and by like quite handily nonetheless, that is not something I really expected, I'll be honest. But I mean, Braun clearly able to make them work even after their nerfs.
Yeah, and what you do notice though is that there's not a whole lot of the R2 vortex going on. That has been effectively deceased since that patch. But the R1 still exists, and when there's a poison restriction on the Power Stance Great Spears, it definitely makes it a little bit more difficult to match up against that. And we see an adjustment coming out from the side of Braun to Goat. Seems like he's switching over to something that you may be more, a little bit more familiar with.
And he has brought out the classic PSSS that he is well known for. However, it doesn't appear to be coated. In fact, he's using Noble Slender Swords instead. Probably isn't on a Faith build, but the match has begun, and both players chug their physics. Braun trying to start out with a dagger. I believe I actually got them mixed up because they were on. Well, both of us got them mixed up because they were on
We're on
opposite
the wrong
sides
side.
of the arena.
GG's.
So it was Scampy using Slenders, not Braun. It seems Scampy trying to beat Braun at his own game, but Braun already with just a little health advantage, but sometimes a little bit is all you need, as these health advantages can quickly turn the tide of a duel. Braun just trying to get some flaming strikes in, but definitely keeping from doing the second part, as it seems, you know, the something to notice a lot more between, you know, the average flaming strike user and someone with as much experience as Braun is that typically people will do the first part of the flaming strike and the second, even if it will very clearly whiff. And, you know, it does buff their weapon, but it does also open them up to punishment. Braun, on the other hand, and other players like him with that experience with Flaming Strike wants to throw it out twice to, you know, get the first hit and try and get a bit of a roll catch in, as both players have just exchanged quite the trade. However, even with such massive damage going out on both sides, they're both pretty equal, now only being separated by less than 50 health. Both it's now just a 100 health discrepancy, keeping the health quite even between them, between the PSSS and the fists. Clearly, Scampy is able to contend with the fists with the PSSS, which, I mean, Braun, it seems, is just trying to prove that despite its nerfs, despite the fact that nobody really uses it anymore, Fists can still come out victorious, as he now has a 2-round advantage over Scampy.
Scampy came out there with the carry and grandeur to try and seal Braun away. with a big ol' whack attack, but was not able to land it. And Braun comes out with a second win there. Braun right now has a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, Scampy's got to like it really is a question now of whether Scampy can pull this back. You know, whether he can lock this in, read the autobiography of Braun the Goat. But so far, it really has just seemed like Braun's autobiography is a locked and closed, key thrown away. Just Scampy unable to get the read on this man with his fists punching and punching.
Is maybe a little bit of PTSD coming back from the days of Mag, and Scampy may have run into him back in that day, and now visions and flashbacks are coming to his foresight, and he's going to be coming down with a 3-2 and a 1, and the next round is underway.
And the high school bully, clearly Braun, as he doesn't appear to be on the fists anymore. Apparently, I would say trying to give Scampy a chance, but he's using an objectively better setup now in the form of the Power Stance Partisans. But it seems that Scampy might actually have a better idea against this than against the fists, as he has landed some damage already. Braun trying to get more damage in with those running L1s. Really, really oppressive, high pressure. But Scampy is able to strike back with two running R2s landing on the HTS, showing that those running R2s, despite their, relatively abysmal tracking, can still come out relatively on top. Scampy may be actually taking this back now as he has quite a sizable health advantage. Braun now put on the back foot only at 1,000 health, while Scampy is still well over 2,000. It seems to be going much more in the other favor. These matches may go on significantly longer than I first thought, as Braun is already down to one hit. Will Scampy end it with an R1 from the Moonveil? And he does with the Poise trade. Well done, and it will go on for another round at least.
Scampy takes his first stock of the round with the Moonveil to finish it off.
Beautiful stuff, yeah. I wasn't expecting him to perform that much better against Power Stance Spears than the fists, but maybe fists are better than I first thought after the nerf.
They still have really, really good whip punish potential, and that's something that Braun was making really effective use of. I think that maybe in this round, Braun was a little bit more aggro and left himself open to these risky trades. But we see another weapon swap coming out here. Both players seem to be adapting as the time goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of weapon swapping. Both players just doing everything in their power to figure each other out and I mean keep this going and take it back. Scampy now clearly still he has not given up. He does still have a chance of pulling this back. If he gets just one more round, he can even the score and maybe come in with a massive clutch as the round is off and Scampy already starting out with the carrion phalanx on that halberd. I believe that, yeah, that is the Banished Knight halberd, not the regular halberd. As Braun already eating, I believe he ate all four of those carrying phalanx swords, giving Scampy a decent health advantage right off the bat as he brings Braun below the 2,000 health range. Going for the running attacks with the halberd, he does land one, but without that stock follow-up. Braun now trying to bring back some spacing. Actually, Scampy managed to dodge that running attack with the Cestus. Very impressive stuff going on. Doing only the first part of carrying phalanx, not the second part. The second part is, I mean, it's kind of just a worse version of piercing fang. A
Objectively
lot easier
bad.
to dodge. Yeah, objectively bad. However, the first part is definitely not. As Braun finally takes a little bit of damage on Scampy, stacking up a bit more damage, evening the health out a little bit more. Scampy, don't choke! Scampy, don't choke! Already brought down to 1,000 health. Braun now with the health advantage, quickly turning this match around.
Braun showing off incredible spacing by outspacing a halberd with fists, something that you don't see every day. but doing it effectively and repeatedly. Braun getting in there, punishing with the fists again, unable to roll catch with the R2 due to the decreased poise damage there. Not able to continue that vortex and continuing to go for more attacks there out of neutral. We'll see if we can get a little bit more whiff punishing in there. It seems like Scampy is eager to get another hit in, but is phased out by those fists and Braun's exceptional spacing.
Yeah, absolutely. The spacing just on top of the fists, sheer pressure as we see a really effective swap to an HTS on the side of Scampy landing another running R2. Oh, that was I believe that was a bleed proc that Braun just landed on Scampy, bringing him already down to within 1 or 2 hits of health. He has only 100 health left. Braun trying to finish it off with a frost pot, which does actually land. Braun taking this third round, stuffing Scampy's hopes of a comeback. Unfortunate.
Incredible display on both sides. Scampy, well played. Braun, well played. Going on to the finals is Braun the GOAT. And Scampy will be competing for third place after the next round.
I think it'd be Braun. Psst, psst, Rust. Psst.
Yes,
I think Braun won that.
that's what I said, right?
You said Scampy.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Fool. You
yeah.
buffoon. I hand you a little note. The little finger pointing at you with a haha.
Deserve to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you can see in this replay, like it was really impressive how quickly Braun brought back that round, finishing it with just one well-placed frost proc. Love to see it.
Well, GG, my computer is now broken and I cannot interact with my screen, but that is okay because I can still talk.
Unfortunate. Can you still see the stream?
I can't.
Uh-oh.
No, I can. I
Oh,
just
okay. I thought you said can't.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but it's a little bit weird. Anyway,
You are
um,
doomed to forever commentate.
so let me know because I can't pull it up. Who's in the next round there?
Good question. Let me pull up the challenge real quick. The next round is going to be between Ruth and witnake.
And we saw both players putting up an incredible round in the previous match. Ruth with the curve sword coming out and is showing its mettle against the PSGS.
Yeah, absolutely. I am personally really excited to see more from Ruth with that Shamshir. It is honestly so fun to watch. It's a weapon I don't see enough, and personally, I think has a much higher place on the meta than a lot of people seem to believe, considering just how little I see it.
You know, I think that part of it comes down to the restrictions that are given to ladder play. You know, we have certain rules that are in place that allow certain things to shine and other things to be a little bit more difficult to pull off. And I think Shamshir has a bit of a chance due to the poise restriction of certain weapons that would be otherwise able to outclass it in most cases. And there's some contention on that too. In general, the Shamshir has a lot of damage. It can pump out some serious numbers very quickly, and that backswing is both an incredible roll catch and it's also just incredible pressure in general because of how fast it is, and the amount of range that it gets on it as well. So it's a very, very solid weapon. Mostly, again, it uses whiff punish kind of tool, and you have to poise count with it, similar to how you would with any other weapon like a thrusting sword or anything fast. But if you can poise count well, and if you can manage your spacing, then that weapon is lethal.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Very well said. And this next match will be deciding who gets that at least $25. The bronze match over on the side there for the third place for I think that was 15, no $10. So the bronze match, bronze match, the bronze match will be for $10, and then the finals will be competing who gets the 50, who gets the 25. But clearly, someone is going home rich tonight.
And if you want to be seeing your gamers sweat even harder for your entertainment, you cringy cockroaches that want to make people fight each other for money, then give us some more money so that we can give it to our contestants and make them work even harder for it.
Yes, give us your money. We totally won't just use it ourselves. Anyways, uh, it appears that Honest Faraday has in fact jinxed us by congratulating us on a sub 3 hour 16-minute bracket. Uh, and now, unfortunately, it has been confirmed that the next round will go on for at least 20 minutes. Unfortunate.
But what can you say? When you have two people that are playing at the highest level and neither one of them can roll catch each other for 19 minutes of a round, it only makes sense. But it seems that we have a change of setups here.
It seems so, with a one-handed spear? Is that a pike? Is that pike off dagger?
No, that is a
That's
halberd.
halberd. Okay, I didn't see the axe head. I was about to be really confused. It seems Ruth has switched off of the Shamshir for this round. Apparently, taking into consideration their opponent, witnake, maybe thinking that the Shamshir is not good enough to contend against witnake's sheer prowess with the PSSS, as both players landed a hit off the bat, but both are back to full health with the swaps off of the Crimson Hammer battalions. witnake now taking health advantage and continuing that pressure as Ruth takes a little bit of health with an R1 into an L1. Now constantly forced onto the back foot just from the sheer pressure of those codids. Flaming strike on that halberd is really interesting to see the swap off of the Shamshir. Good spacing against that. Well, good dodge against that jumping L1. Ruth now in a very dangerous position in terms of health. I believe that's a tier proc and only 739 health. Meanwhile, witnake, while still at roughly the same health, does not have his tier proc yet. Ruth now brought down to 265 HP. Only one more hit will finish the job from witnake. But just maybe Ruth will be able to take this back as she does land some extra hits against witnake, popping his tier, but he's back up to 800 health, and Ruth will absolutely need to land a lot more hits in order to take this, but you still have a chance.
Witnick showing some of the massive skill display that you expect to see when you're playing with codids and a little bit of mashing out of hit stun, but gets punished. And that off dagger comes out and puts in a lot of work. Now that off dagger has a lot of pressure behind it, and Witnick has to be careful. Swaps over to his feathers there, and
And it
oh,
ends with
it's
a
a
trade.
draw. Incredible display between both combatants.
Insane. You love to see the draws. And that just
Yeah,
you
what were you
know,
saying about the 20-minute match there a second ago?
yeah. As I said, Honest Faraday absolutely cursed us, and I foresee many more draws and much more passivity in the future of this match.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, to say the least. But we'll see if Ruth makes any adaptations or Witnick is going to continue to stay on those codids. With codids, it tends to be a pretty optimized build. You don't tend to veer too many stats into any other categories to try and give yourself other options. So depending on how well he's optimized for codids, he may only be using codids. Whereas Ruth has obviously already shown us that they have multiple weapons in their arsenal to be able to adapt to.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as someone said in chat, It is interesting. Ruth isn't making use of the Fire Scorpion charm, which, while not very useful in a traditional scenario, it does actually have quite a bit of use against something like Coatids because Coatids are pure holy damage, and the Fire Scorpion charm only lowers your physical absorption, meaning that it is just a flat damage boost. And speak of the devil, I think that is the Fire Scorpion charm that Ruth just equipped.
It seems that Ruth is either in chat or has the same ideas. But being
Seems
someone
so.
who's been playing this game for a while, I think that they're fairly well aware of that knowledge. And she gets some
Absolutely.
trades, or not trades even, just some clean hits against witnake, having taken no damage themselves, still at full, well, mostly full health.
Nearly, just a little bit missing there. It is, you know, another thing, just to speak on the sheer power of the Coatids, that people will have a Fire Scorpion Charm ready in their inventory, or just, you know, Scorpion Charms in general ready in their inventory, specifically for use against Coatids, because, I mean, there aren't really any other weapons in the game that you can make use of the Scorpion Charms with.
And just like that, both combatants have their health pulled down to nearly empty on both sides. The Flaming Strike comes out to punish witnake. Witnake has her in the corner and puts Ruth away with the L1 of the Straight Swords.
And Witnake will take this second round for his first point in this match.
You know, neither of us even just commented on the fact that there was an L2 out there from the Coatids. That was a
That's
real
true.
L2. A real one.
L2 real. I think it was so unexpected that we didn't even process it.
Coated coming out with the L2 to give him a little bit of damage. And not even a little bit, that was a good chunk. But right now, Witnake has the advantage with the 1 point lead over Ruth on a 3-stock match. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe the countdown will come in now. Yes, it will. 3, 2, 1, and it is off to the races. Both players standing still. Maybe. Oh, the arrow hasn't dropped yet. The players are not aware, and the countdown comes back again, and now it is off. Amazing stuff on the side of our technical team as both players drink their physics. And Ruth is right off with the fire on the halberd, already going in for some off dagger hits with that Chinkadea. Uh, Neither player having landed any hits yet, both throwing them, but neither landing. Always fun interactions, as previously stated, when both players just throw attack after attack and none of them land. Both players so proficient with rolling and evenly matched. But Witnake does now have a slight health advantage as he did win that interaction there. As Ruth swaps off to the Fire Scorpion charm, as well as a Halig Tree talisman, which I didn't even see before. Or Halig Drake talisman, that's what it is. And a Shard of Alexander to get extra damage on those flaming strikes. Meanwhile, Witnake still holding on to that Ritual Shield Talisman, which does allow him to take a lot less damage from that initial hit. Now swapping off to the Bulgo Talisman, wearing now the Blessed Dew Talisman and the Godskin Swaddling Cloth, trying to take full advantage of the double hits with those Coatids to regen any missing health. So when he gets to full, he might switch back to the Ritual Shield Talisman. Amazing, you know, anti-whiffing there. Is Ruth does take a little bit of damage, but just as quickly, Witnake lands an L1 to steal back that health advantage. Witnake still with 100 health over Ruth. It's not much, but sometimes just a little bit can mean the difference. And then there's another 2, 3 L1s. You don't see that very often, as Ruth is now taken down all the way to 700 health with Tear proc. Meanwhile, Witnake still at a very comfortable 960 health with his Tear still. It is now just a matter of, you know, how this will go, as Witnake only really needs to land 1 or 2 more Coatids.
And there's one of them, Witnake with a big hit on Ruth, but Ruth takes a little bit of health back. Both players are pretty low. Ruth can reasonably take this out in one big hit if she can poise chip with the off dagger and then get a full flaming strike in on the rollout. But right now we have Witnake putting in the pressure and taking out Ruth with the L1.
Unfortunate, alright. And Witnake has
And a
taken the
pivot.
second round. And the pivot true combo into Mauled.
We have all been there. Well, maybe not all of us, but yep.
You know, everyone was a pivot Andy at one point.
So right now, Ruth has not had any points into Witnake, and they need to start making some adjustments here if they want to start taking these points. But with a 2-0 disadvantage, it's going to be a rough climb getting back out of that grave to try and continue on to the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I am curious as to whether Ruth will switch it up at all with her setup, or whether she will stick to that halberd, just trying to, trying to take it with that halberd. Maybe she knows some, maybe we don't. Maybe she's read witnake more than we think, and she's about to make a 3-round comeback. We'll just have to wait and see.
That would be an impressive one to say the least.
Now, not to say Whitnake is listening to what I'm saying right now. However, it would be really, really funny if he threw for a couple of rounds just to make this
It's
go
for
on a
the
little longer.
content.
For the content, for the content. I'm not telling you to throw, but it'd be funny if you did.
Oh, debatable.
Funny to some.
And
Funny
we're getting
funny
a
in the long
replay
run.
here. I actually don't know. Are we still echoing in the replay?
I don't think so. I I unmuted the stream and I don't believe we are. I think that issue is fixed, thankfully.
Excellent. It seems like there's been some issues with lat, according to the players, and we're getting a review on that right now to see exactly how that was playing out. Or so moving forward, we'll be recording the rounds to make sure everything looks good on the sides of the combatants. Um, but we're going to continue on with the round from here and move on to the third set of the match.
Yeah, absolutely. Both players getting set back up for their final, well, not final, but another round. And it is now a question, will Ruth be able to take this back? I'd assume she has a better idea now of the Whitnake strategy, and perhaps can take advantage of any, all and any weaknesses in his setup as he gets the roll catch with the coded Ash of War. Impressive stuff there. You don't see, you really don't see that very often, as Whitnake is making full use of the coded L2, clearly overpowered, as he does already have a pretty hefty health advantage, bringing Ruth to nearly half.
Some Johns from the comment section saying that we are bad commentators, but it doesn't matter because what matters here is the gameplay and the action. And Ruth is taking a massive amount of damage, but dishing it back to Witnake. Both players now on a low amount of health, but with Witnake with an obvious advantage over Ruth. Flaming Strike comes out with a bit of chip and takes out the tier. Ruth now on the last lines of her life right now. Able to be put away in one, and the
Another
L2 finishes it
L2!
off. Incredible stuff with Witnake taking the match.
Insane. I think that's 3 L2s landed on the side of Whitnake now. You'll love to see it.
We get a little bit of a replay from that. You see that Flaming Strike into Dagger combo. A little bit of whiffing. But for the most part, what you're really seeing from these combatants is just incredible amount of spacing and roll discipline. Something that takes a lot of years and practice and patience to really get down. And time and dedication, that's something that you really can't take away from these players, no matter what setup they're using, if it's a super optimized setup or if it's something off meta. either way, if you're going to be competing at this level of gameplay, then you have had to spend some time, learning to play the game and work on these fundamentals. And in both cases, you're seeing both of these players display a phenomenal display of, you know, skill in practice.
Yeah, absolutely. it is really entertaining to see even in these semifinals, people still pulling out some goofy moves and well, I mean, making them work evidently with three different coded L2s landed against Ruth. Maybe they're not as bad as people think. Maybe Witnake is just amazing at making the reads with those. Who knows?
Witnick is indeed built different. That coded L2 came out clutch twice, not even just once in a match. Something that I really don't see very often. I think we'll be going over to the third round match here in a minute. But we're going to be seeing about getting the combatants into the ring there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in the meantime, rather than just comments about the previous match, I mean, is there anything else you want to say about the this tournament overall so far as we get ever closer to the finals?
Yeah, I would agree with the chat that we sound like golf commentators, and as much as I'd like to say screw you guys, you know what? You're not wrong.
And you know
Uh,
what? It's not necessarily a bad thing. As someone mentioned, it's some people prefer this kind of commentary over, Smash Bros. Screaming into the mic, barely able to understand what they're saying. And
but it would be funny. That's what
it would be
matters.
funny. It would be really funny to just get unnecessarily loud.
Now, here's the thing that chat doesn't understand. I'm very funny. They just haven't figured it out yet. You'll get
Exactly.
it eventually. You just it's low brow humor. You just gotta furrow your eyebrows a little bit more, and when you get there, then you'll go, oh, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Russ Bucket, two of the funniest people on the planet for real. And, it's just you guys just don't have the comedic knowledge to understand us.
True.
Faraday pulling out the deep and dirty insults against me. My feelings are hurt and I am gonna go cry now.
Here we go. I'm gonna whip out the point down on them. There you go. Nice little point down for unfair day.
Thank
Unfair
you.
day with the unfair comments to my boy Ponko here.
Dishonest Faraday. Absolutely in shambles. I can never speak again.
Yeah, I bet he's never heard the dishonest joke before. That one's definitely a new one.
I know, I'm really, really creative.
Same. But pre-roll or midstream?
And we are back with it, gamers.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's ya boy Buster Rocket here with Ponko, back at you with another tournament day. Let's go. Let's get this
Insane.
bread.
Bread being getted
See, I
as
told you
we
I'm funny.
speak.
I'm funny. Anyway,
You are.
so moving on, we're gonna have Ruth and Scappy for the next round, coming for the third place match.
Yeah, and I'm very curious whether, Ruth will continue with the howl the howl stock that we saw in the previous match, or if she will go back to her tried and true Shamshir.
To be honest, I've been impressed with both of those players immensely during this tournament. Scampy having all the different hard swap options and doing them so well, where he's not getting punished a lot for the swap back to his main setup, and really actually using that quite effectively. And then Ruth with obviously the Shamshir coming in to clean up against PSGS. It was a really excellent match. and I hope to see more gameplay like that from them today. So we'll see what they bring us.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I am very excited to see how this next match will go. Two very creative players, and in the final leg of the tournament as well.
So as I understand it, the this round will be a best of 3, and then for the finals it'll be a best of 4. I lied. This will be a best of 7. And then final, yeah. This is a best of 7. Okay, yeah, this is a best of 7, and so is the finals. But all of the contestants have been putting in a ton of work during this event, and I appreciate everyone who came out and participated, and hope to continue to see more good matches coming forward. We have some good representation from Europe today, and looks like Ponko is joining back into the call.
Yeah, just little minor technical issues, but I am back and I am more than ready. Just like that, we've transitioned to the battlefield. As you can see, 4 rounds, or four stocks on either end. As oh, I thought for a moment they might have given Scampy a free 2 wins there, but apparently not, as he is now using Shunter. That is very interesting.
Shunter into a Howl Dagger matchup. That's going to be definitely one of the matches of all time. Definitely for both of these setups though, it's going to be oh my god, and a
Backstab right
backstab out
off
of
the
the roll.
bat.
Incredible grab. And Scampy
Bringing
doesn't
back,
skip a beat and puts on a ton of pressure.
bringing back the Dark Souls 3 tech, evidently, as Ruth is now using a dagger, it seems, two-handed for another backstab, absolutely clowning on the well, less than optimal tracking of the Shunter, as Scampy also apparently tries to go for a backstab, but not to the same success, as Ruth is just fishing back here. And it seems she's gotten quite the large catch, but it may be coming back to bite her now, as she's taken 2 crouching R1s from the Shunter, but still has a massive health advantage. Yes, Faraday, Shunter is meta. It is. It really is. The crouch poke, man. For real, for real. But Scampy, now down to 600 health with his tier procced. Will he be able to take this back? Ruth may be getting a little bit overconfident with that dagger, but gets another backstab to finish the round. Amazing. 3 backstabs.
Insane fishing. 3 fish out of 1 match. Actually crazy. We'll see if Scampy is going to make an adaptation to that display of fishing skill, or if he's going to stick to his Shunter. But this is a Shunter v Dagger matchup, and we'll see what happens.
People appear to be, not too not too confident in Scampy's Shunter performance. Bro was indeed not cooking. He's now swapped to HTS, but it doesn't matter as he gets backstabbed again.
The whole community is in shambles. We don't even understand what game this is anymore. We think that this is Dark Souls 3.
Poor
Scampy is getting
Scampy.
scamped on with multiple R1s coming out from that dagger and putting in the work.
Flaming strike and finishing it with the R1 classic. You love to see it. Oh my gosh, Ruth winning flawlessly, the first flawless of the tournament.
I am lost for words.
Absolutely insane.
Where
Here
the
I
hell was this? Where was this last match, Ruth?
Yeah, if Ruth could have pulled this in her last match, man, She might be the one winning the 50. That is insane. Let him fight back. It starts off with both physics. Now Scampy swapped to the PSSS, a lot harder to backstab, but there's a chance Ruth might go for it anyways, still getting a health advantage. Now the health disadvantage with the dagger. But back to the health advantage, that dagger is putting in work, doing a lot of damage even with the R1s. She doesn't even need the backstabs. Ruth pulling two-handed dagger into the meta, just showing off all of these weapons you don't see much. First, the Shamshir, now a two-handed dagger with Flaming Strike. You love to see it. And she's still trying to fish. The confidence has clearly gone to her head as she's trying to backstab PSSS. It's just... And the health is still roughly equal. Both players down to one hit and winning, beating PSSS with a two-handed dagger and nothing more, not even swapping off of the Crimson Amber Medallion. Insanity.
I am in shambles.
We
I
all are.
have nothing. I don't understand what's happening right now.
Insane. My brain is overloading right now. Ruth is insane, and we should all be bowing down to her right now.
True, but Scampy, come on, man. Come on.
Destroy
Fight back.
Scampy.
Don't give in. And we have the round resetting, and we're gonna have both fighters getting underway here in just a minute. Ruth
Already
being
up
absolutely
3-0.
ruthless. And the bolt is away. Both fighters go in, and Ruth is still on that dagger against the PSSS, getting a little bit of whiff chip in there. Both fighters getting some chip damage in there. Ruth with the obvious clear advantage though, with that flaming strike coming out there doing a ton of damage, able to poke and get out just in time to escape the vortex
Wow.
and the damage of the PSSS.
Already tears pop. Scampy down to 500 HP, down to nothing. And Ruth just absolutely rips away this, securing herself third place in this tournament. And that sweet, sweet $10.
Dude, that's like an entire Big Mac or something. Man, I
That
don't
is
know.
at least one
Like a
McChicken.
Frosty. You could get a Frosty.
Hell yeah.
Is that what
You
they're
know,
called?
Ruth, Frosty from Wendy's, or are
I
you
have no
talking
idea.
McDonald's?
McDonald's is what I was thinking of.
Oh yeah, no, Wendy's is the one with Frosties.
Wendy's? Okay.
Yeah, and they're good. It's pricey though. And I think after this, Ruth deserves to treat herself to some Wendy's. After that incredible performance, Scampy just left in shambles.
As Checkmark Man says in the comments, this is the match that the community deserves. True and factual.
Absolutely so true, King.
And with that, that brings us down to our finals. So we have Braun the Goat versus Witnake. This is going to be an insane match, to say the least. Both of these combatants have been around for quite a bit of time. I think Witnake has more years on Braun in terms of overall Souls content. With Braun saying that this is really the only game that he's played in terms of Souls that he's taken PvP seriously with. And he only really got started into the PvP scene in October, so he's a pretty fresh fish as far as all things are concerned, and he's showing his stuff like in such a short amount of time. He's really risen the ranks, and he's shown us what he can do with even such a short amount of time of training and getting good, as it were said.
Yeah. This is really going to be interesting. Both players known for being absolute powerhouses with the coded straight swords, but some people in chat seem to disagree with your take on it being an insane match, saying it's going to be 170 MS, which may actually end up being factual because of how far away from each other these players live. Witnake, as stated earlier, being from all the way in Russia, while Braun, I mean, where is Braun from?
EU. Yep,
It's
definitely
like,
from
I
the
mean,
EU.
one of the countries of all time, that's for sure. Uh, Portugal. Yeah. Portugal to Russian connection. That is.
That's
Oh,
tough.
someone pull up Google Maps.
Uh, on this kind of latency, it's time to pull out the Ripple Howard. But
I think
honestly,
so.
in terms of what they have available to them with their builds, what do you think that we're going to be seeing here?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, Faraday 170 ms PSSS mirror. This may just be the 3 hour long match. As very possible that both players will just be unable to land anything besides trades.
So to the better damage, may the player win.
Scampy leaving on a high note. A rare sight from Elden Ring players. Positive mental. That is a rare sight to see in this community, but all the same, thank you for participating, Scampy, and well done getting to the bronze match in the finals.
That being Scampy's first showing in a competition as well, so very well played to them. They definitely showed their stuff and showed that they have the mettle to stand up to even the best out here, and they put up a really good fight. Last one was a little bit tough, I'm not gonna lie, but overall they played very well.
Absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly, and we are in fact seeing the coded straight sword
Oh
mirror
God,
wearing the same all the way down to the armor.
this was planned. This is rigged.
Braun the Goat having apparently rigged the match once again. Apparently not the first time this has happened. The mirror has begun as both players pulling out the PSSS and trying to land any amount of hit on each other with this latency, as we can see phantom hit after phantom hit. Witnake starting out with the Holy Scorpion Charm, possibly giving him that damage edge against Braun, but as long as Braun can stay at full health, that Ritual Sword Talisman will do him favors as they're just trying to land anything against each other as Witnake takes the first hit for just a measly 200 damage as Braun was only able to land one of the swords, but either way, he does have a health advantage now as Braun is forcing Witnake into the corner, a really bad position to be against power stance straight swords, but he is slowly forcing his way out. Maybe being pushed back like this will reinforce Witnake's resolve like a cornered animal in a cage, but Braun is just putting on so much more pressure than Witnake can handle, already bringing him down to 1500 health. The latency may not be as much of an issue as we first thought it would be, down to 1000, down to 500. Tier not quite procced yet. Will it tier skip? No, he's back up to 1000. But Braun still has just as much health with his tier still intact as both players are using identical talismans now. It is a 100% mirror. This match is down purely to who has the better skill and who has the better luck with this latency, as Witnake is down to just 252 health. Even a wayside hit from one of these swords will finish it off, but Braun has switched to fists and back to Codeds. He wants to go fully in with the Codeds. He is pure. He is dedicated to this mirror match. What do you think of what is happening right now on screen, Rust?
Well, it looks like both players are having a really difficult time trying to whiff punish on these missing jump attacks, and we see a huge hit on Braun. Braun taken out by another L1 after the JL1. Witnake with the first stock of the match. Incredible display on both sides' parts. Both of them having a tough time with that latency. Super difficult to get a punish off of anything, with either player being able to roll out to safety in time to escape really any damage. Baron having to reset back at the round table hole, he's going to have a tough time getting back out. But we'll be resetting in here in just a minute. Both players did an exceptional job in that first round, but yeah, that latency is a bit tough.
Absolutely, and I was really not expecting that. Like, Witnake was at such a health disadvantage, only 200 health at the end there, and even still, despite all of that, he got a full two L1s into Braun and just obliterated that health bar, really showing that Codeds can like in the blink of an eye, just a couple well-placed hits with Codids can completely turn a match around. Witnake now with the first round, and the next round is already underway as the arrow drops from the sky, and both players are in it to win it. Starting out with a dagger, which does not appear to land, and it is back to the good old-fashioned footsies. As both players are just seeing who's going to throw the first hit, and it is Witnake actually getting a little bit of chip on Braun. Now both going for trades. Braun is now having quite a massive health advantage. This is looking much better for Braun than it was in the previous match right off the bat. Already with the talisman swaps, Witnake down to just 1200 HP, but as previously stated, it is very possible that the Codids could very quickly turn this match around. He does go for the L2, but unfortunately it does not work as well for him as it did against Ruth, as he still is down to 600 health. He does still have his tier, which does now proc, bringing him back up to 1000. He goes for the L2, but thankfully isn't punished for it. Braun still at a very healthy, now 1000, now 600, brought very close together. But Witnake is now down to that same health deficit that he was in the first round. Will he be able to pull it back in the same way he did before? As he pops Braun's tier, but it isn't enough, and Braun takes it with the fists. Dishonest.
Dishonest. Dishonest fist
It was
weapons.
supposed to be. It was supposed to be a coded mirror, and Braun
Oh,
just
God.
could not handle the heat.
I don't even know how to feel about that whole entire sentence. But wow. All I can say is wow. The amount of damage that things pull off is absolutely astonishing. Uh, Now, with this whole debate about, PSSS and their optimization, is it safe to say at this point that PSSS coded is now com completely superior to carrions, or is there a debate to be had there?
I'm really not sure because, I mean, the one thing the Carrions have that the Codids don't is physical damage, which, the one thing, as previously stated, that people do against Codids, and we can even see it in this mirror match with that Holy Scorpion Charm on Witnake, is that they only do holy damage. So if you can do anything to take advantage of that or even nullify it, then I mean there is at the very least some way of dealing with that, but Carrions will always get something. You can't just use Scorpions against Carrions, and they're already well in with the trades. Their health maintaining pretty much the same, but Braun stealing away that health advantage.
L1's coming out from both sides and resetting back to neutral. There's a lot of mind games to be had here as both of them are trying to space each other out, but it's so difficult to confidently get your spacing against these straight swords when you can think that you've outspaced, but that latency just gets better of you, and all of a sudden you're taking a face full of damage. We see a little trade coming out on both sides there, not that much of a damage, maybe a bit of a half hit on either side, and resetting back over to neutral. Again, neutral kind of being like the main space for these coded to be comfortable in, and it tends to be a first to try and hit is the one to lose. So obviously the passive play is kind of the approach here. These jail ones are a nice way to be able to get in though without having too much of a risk of getting punished for it though, because the recovery on them is so short, and with the latency of it, it's very difficult to react to it in time, even if you're able to outspace it, to even get a decent punish in. And we see huge hits coming in. Witnake taking a giant chunk of damage with his tier proc. Braun still has his tier, but only just a little bit away from having that popped and being taken out as well. It only takes 2 L1s and either player is really taken out of the match at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Both players now just under 1000 health, but Braun getting the regen with that Blessed Dew talisman. Witnake also with Blessed Dew, but he does eat an L2 from Braun, getting dealt back the medicine that he once gave out as Braun takes another round off of Witnake.
Braun with a 2-1 lead over Witnake.
Yeah.
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 that's pretty much all you can say about these kinds of matches, man.
I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah, the match is sure going. That's all right.
It is indeed going.
A lot of people in chat rooting for Braun. Surprised that there's not a whole lot of people rooting for Witnake. I personally believe in him. I listen. Witnake, I haven't seen his name around a whole lot, but I've seen he's like one of the few people here who I have seen fight, and the dude has the potential of absolute insanity when it comes to his skill, and I believe that he can take this off of Braun, potentially maybe taking it back from this 2-1 deficit. As it starts out once again with these classic footsies, neither both players just trying to land any kind of damage on each other as before. This is it. This is really is for all the marbles. Is Witnake once again taking the first hits of damage? It seems to be a consistent theme here, but it again is very easy for him to be able to just take back that health deficit with coateds. It can happen in the blink of an eye, and well, let's see if we can see that here.
Yeah, we see that Witnick is having a really difficult time trying to space out Braun, and anytime he's able to space out the JL1 and try and get an attack in, Braun's always able to roll out in time. Braun takes a little bit of damage there. Witnick, in exchange, takes a little bit on his own. Witnick here is in a disadvantage state again. Oh, huge hit into Witnick, and Braun with a huge advantage. But Witnick keeps going. He keeps pressing in, trying to put some pressure on it. Braun gets the JL1 out onto the attack and does a ton of damage to Witnick, but he gets a little bit of a trade back. Witnick back on the back foot, starts trying to swap out his rings, but Braun keeps on the pressure. We see them kind of resetting to neutral here, but Witnick still maintaining that amount of aggression that he had before, despite the health disadvantage there. He's got to get some damage in, otherwise Braun is going to take another set.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's very possible still that Whitney could pull this back, but it is looking like Braun might take this third round. You never know, though. We've already seen it turn around so fast, but it does seem like it's going to end in Braun's favor with the backswing.
Yeah, that whiff punish potential, man, it's really difficult when you have this kind of latency. And you see Witnick there on that last trade, or well, not trade even, the last hit that he took. He had tried to space it out by turning around after we were throwing out the L1, but just due to the latency, he wasn't able to get out of in time for Braun to be able to punish it, and so that spacing really got the better of him. It's just so difficult. It's just so difficult to try and get in on that latency. It's not even that bad though, to be honest. Like, it's rough, but it's not the worst that you've ever seen. I mean, you think about
Oh
Elden lag.
yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, this is on seamless. This
You know,
is
compared to the average arena match, you know, this is gold.
absolutely.
What? Wait,
Did
what happened? I looked away for a second.
oh, they were on the wrong sides.
Right. It's okay, Whitnick. I understand you're colorblind.
All right, both players seem to be in position. We're gonna be having the bolt come underway. Looks like
Yeah,
they got their tiers on, or their rings all set up, and the bolt is out. Both players drink their physics, a little bit of fan dagger action, or regular daggers rather, and a nice little frost pot that misses. Unfortunate. Got to work on your aim.
yeah, absolutely. And I wonder what Whitnick is thinking right now being 2 rounds behind Braun. He'd need to win a full 3 rounds in a row to pull this back. It looks like it is. I mean, these kinds of comebacks have happened before. It is entirely possible that it could still happen, just, you know, on the unlikely side. But he could force a choke out of Braun, but it does still seem like Braun is just putting on that pressure. He's just so, you know, uh, skilled with these codeds. He has the knowledge, he has the fundamentals, and I mean, he is very clearly showing that here.
One of the big things that you're noticing from Braun is he's not taking as many risks. He really plays smart into this, and you see Witnick there jumping over the top of Braun's head, getting hit out of the air twice. Huge hit into Witnick. And Braun just taking a little bit of chip in return. But honestly, even at this point here, it could be anybody's game, even with and there you go. You see Braun taking a giant chunk of damage. Both health pools seem about even at this point. I think witnake has his tier missing. Braun still has his tier intact. Could he get the tier skip in if we? Oh, and there goes the tier. Both players without a tier, both at a very low amount of health.
Witnake back with a very slight health advantage, but a health advantage nonetheless. He's maintaining it despite the trades, and he does actually take this round. It is going to go on longer, ladies and gentlemen, as it now is 2-3. Shuroy very excited on that one.
And say what you will about L1 mashing. Every setup has its thing that it does. If you have house stock, it's going to be L1 R1 L1 R1. If you have a great sword, it's going to be R1 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 R1. Every weapon has its thing that it does, right? And it always has a way that it excels at. And for Coda, it just happens to be the simple L1 button. But with these players, you have seen them throw out the occasional L2, which has done some work, and away goes the bolt, and the fight begins.
Yes, absolutely. It's already underway with both players just throwing out L1s as Witnake lands just one again with that jumping attack. Braun going for another L2, but unfortunately it does not land. As many of those has thrown out, it seems both players are wise to them at this point. As they're now kind of in the corner, can't see what's going on too well. Witnake is backed into a corner, not a good spot, and he's eaten a lot of damage for it. Now at quite the health deficit, Braun's still at very close to full health, while Witnake is approaching the halfway point. Braun might just dash any chances of or any hopes of a comeback for Witnake, but it seems Witnake is to a degree maintaining his cool, maintaining his spacing skills, his his baits, his whiffing, and just his overall understanding of this weapon that he uses pretty much as much as Braun.
Yeah, Ron was saying before that the main setups that he tends to go for are again fist weapons and power stance straight swords, and this tends to be what he's most comfortable with. And you see him doing a great job of playing with him here. But right now he just took a ton of damage from Witnake, who put on the pressure. But oh my God, a huge hit into Braun. Braun gets his tier pops. Witnake gets his. I think he still has his tier, if barely. Both players at almost no health left whatsoever. Braun in the corner, Witnake with a chase down. Braun get a backswing onto Witnake. And the backswing again. Braun with almost nothing left is pushed onto his feathers. Still anyone's game. 1L or 2L1s from Braun will put him away.
Ooh.
But only just an R1 would be all. And there it is.
And it goes
R1.
to the 3-3. It is
Absolutely
anyone's
insane.
game now. Witnake might just make this comeback and give himself an absolute photo finish of a victory in this festival of combat.
Coming down to the wire with Witnake and Braun the GOAT. PSSS mirrors, who would have guessed it?
Absolutely, and we're seeing so many Witnakes in chat.
The rare CR1 from the straight swords came out there and put away the final hit in that round.
Absolutely proving that PSSS can be more than just L1, 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 L1. Winner takes all in this last round. It is off, and both players, I imagine, they're, despite how cool and calm and collected they may typically be, I can imagine hands shaking right now, faces pressed to screens, just both players giving their all and trying their absolute hardest to take this last round for themselves and the 50.
50 whole buckaroonies, man, on the line here today with both players spacing each other out in neutral. Neither one getting any significant amount of damage in yet, but all it takes is one good exchange for anybody's game to really be changed here.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, just the footsies off the bat as neither player can really land any meaningful damage as like it really is just down to it and a trade right off the bat. Both players maintaining very close health. Braun now with that slight health advantage that could mean the world to him. Both players with Halig Drake, both players with the Holy Scorpion Charm, and witnake taking a massive chunk of health off of Braun. The health difference massively in his favor, bringing Braun below 1,000, but just as quickly Braun is even the score. Both players down, but Braun has his tier procced and witnake has just gone back above 1,000. Braun is down just one hit, one more hit to finish it. But Braun, there is still the potential that Braun could bring it. Witnake, possibly with this amazing comeback here, as Braun is down to such little health, and Witnake takes it with one final L1 to get a 3-round comeback and the $50.
Witnick has here today proven himself to be the best ever Elden Ring player ever to ever exist ever. Well done, Witnick. Great job.
Absolutely built different, and the chat is absolutely going wild. It is amazing to see. Let's look at this replay. Never mind. No, yep, back to the replay. Alrighty. Let's see how this went. It's just how fast these rounds can go, how fast the health difference changes, and just how quickly these rounds can escalate and change, going from passive footsies, no one to land any attack, to hit after hit after hit. As we can see here, just how quickly Witnick ripped that health away from Braun.
But it's like you said at the very beginning of the match, it's really going to come down a lot to just trades and who can land the most amount of those damage in those trades as possible. Because again, this latency doesn't really allot for a lot of whiff punish potential. It doesn't allow for a lot of roll catch potential. If you can just roll out twice to avoid any amount of damage from anything. And in this case, Witnick was able to come out with a differential there and take the win, and with a huge comeback from a 3-1 disadvantage. Incredible display of skill and incredible plays on both parties. Great job to all of the combatants here today, and everyone included from the very beginning of the rounds until now. Everyone did a phenomenal job. I think that this was a really, really good tournament and really well organized. And again, thank you to the tournament organizers who hosted this event today and got everything set up. There was a lot of work that was put into this behind the scenes, and a huge shout out to all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Just such an amazing tournament. I'm very happy to be a part of this and for this to be, the first tournament I've commentated and be so interesting. Just from the first rounds, we saw so many interesting setups, some off meta, some memes, some parries, a lot of backstabs, just things we weren't expecting. And round two, we saw much the same thing. People still pulling out very interesting setups and really showing like that they do have what it takes to keep going. In the semifinals, we saw amazing, matches. We saw just, generally entertaining and good matches. In the bronze match, we saw just an absolute steamroll on the side of Ruth, backstab after backstab, just so entertaining to watch. And in the finals between Braun the Goat and Witnake, we saw just a massive, massive comeback, really showing that Witnake's reads are unlike anyone else. He may have been down the first couple rounds, but past that, he had Braun open like a book.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely one of the matches of all time. But let's not ever take credit away from these players for being able to come out on top with outplays, outspacing, and just pure displays of skill. When you have a matchup like that where it's PSSS into PSSS, it's not only just a damage thing too. You know, you have to understand your spacing, your priority, understanding how to adapt to latency. All these are skills that you develop, and then both players were able to show a good degree of that today. Um, but that does it for the EU tournament today for the FOC, and tomorrow we'll have the FOC for the NA tournament. Um, and we'll see how that goes. But we'll have, I believe it'll be Sadia Moon and its montage casting for that event.
Absolutely, that is going to be something to watch. It really is always interesting to see the difference between the NA tourneys and the EU tourneys, and the difference in how people play, how lat affects them, and I mean all that. It's just these tournaments. It's great in a game that really isn't known for having a huge competitive scene. You can still get so much just interesting interactions, the love and effort put into these events. And I mean, while we're here, the guy who hasn't really shown up at all, the person behind all of these amazing, well, the two people behind these backgrounds and transitions, the art, everything, thanks to them as well. Chell, Shiroi, uh, doing an amazing job with the visuals of this tournament.
GG's to everyone, and good job all around.
Hell yeah, gamers.
So that'll do it for today's tournament. But again, Twitch Primes, give us your money, please. We
Money, money,
need
money,
more
money.
money for tournaments and for giving money to tournament players. If you're a tournament player, then it only behooves you to invest more money into the tournament so that you can win more money. It's an investment in your future. Like honestly, like if we were to financial advisors, then I'd probably say, invest all of your stocks into this. But yeah, I'm not gonna say that. Like, just it's an idea. It's one to throw out there. But some Twitch Primes and subscriptions and stuff like that. Yeah.
And to correct myself real quick, sorry, with the overlays and stuff, Chell behind the control center doing all of the transitions and stuff, but Amelia, the amazing artist behind the overlays and such, just very cool to see.
All right. Well, for today, it looks like we are not going to be raiding out. But I want to thank everyone again for showing up, and thank you again for having myself and Panko as casters for today's event. And I hope you all have a good rest of your day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Russ Bucket, for being here with me to do this. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Over 100 viewers is always fun to see. And, we'll see you next time.